Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, Parallel Deku. Back with another fanfiction. This is the series of What If Deku's Love Wasn't One-Sided? Now before starting, please give this video a like. And subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. I wasn't expecting this. This was all Izuku could think at that moment. He never anticipated that he would find himself in love. If you're wondering what was happening, he had just realized that his feelings for someone were deeper than he had thought. The worst part was that he believed this person would never return his feelings. Or so he thought. He became aware of his feelings for this particular person after sensing that something was different. Whenever that person was near, he felt a strange flutter in his stomach. He knew he shouldn't feel this way. These emotions could lead to heartache, the kind that frightened him. Pain was not unfamiliar to him. He had experienced both physical and emotional suffering. Those were the kinds of pain that shaped him. But the pain that these feelings might cause? He feared it would bring him to tears. Deku! Izuku was jolted from his thoughts by his best friend's voice. Uraraka was with him because he had called her to discuss the strange feelings that had been bothering him for weeks. Sorry, Uraraka. I was lost in my thoughts, he said, offering her an apologetic smile. The bubbly brunette sighed. I can't believe you're actually in love with Bakugo. She sighed again, feeling sympathetic toward her sweet and kind friend. Deku's heart will be broken. I don't think Bakugo will ever feel the same way. But maybe the feelings aren't too deep. She could still help him find a way to manage it. Perhaps. I didn't expect this either. Especially with Kaken, Izuku sighed. Yes, he had just come to terms with the fact that he was in love with his childhood friend, who had often bullied him. He had always admired Kaken, but never thought it would lead to romantic feelings. That changed when Kaken took the time to accompany him to Recovery Girl's office and offered him a small, apologetic smile, something he rarely saw. Do you think you can stop yourself from falling too hard? Uraraka asked, catching him off guard. He hadn't considered that. After a moment of thought, he realized he couldn't let himself fall too deeply. It would only lead to heartbreak. I'll have to try. I just realized my feelings and I still don't know how to handle them. Confessing was never an option for me, he replied. Uraraka shook her head and then nodded in understanding. If you need someone to talk to, just call me, she said, offering him a reassuring smile before heading to the door and leaving his room. Alone in his room, Izuku felt tears welling up. He already knew how this would end, and it made him sad. Kaken will never love me back. There's no way he would reciprocate these feelings. He's too prideful to express anything other than anger. He hates me and I can't blame him. Maybe I should avoid him for now. Not that we actually talk much. Well, it's probably for the best. I just hope I don't fall harder than I already have. What a way to jinx himself. The next morning came, and Izuku woke up earlier than usual. He got out of bed at exactly 4 a.m. and decided to get ready for school. Once dressed, he left his room and headed to the kitchen to prepare a simple breakfast. After eating and washing the dishes, he returned to his room to grab his worksheet, which he had forgotten to pack. After that, he set off for school. As expected, he was the first to enter the classroom. Classes started at 8 o'clock and he was already there by 6. He sighed, feeling sleepy. Although he had gone to bed early, he still felt tired. Deciding to take a short nap, he rested his head on his desk, knowing he would wake up when his classmates arrived, remembering how noisy they could be. 10 minutes later, he found it hard to sleep, but he kept his head down. Suddenly, he sensed someone entering the classroom. He didn't need to look to know who it was. Kaken. He didn't want to see Katsuki right now, and since it was just the two of them, he figured it was best to pretend to be asleep. He planned to wait for Uraraka to arrive and talk to her instead. But Kaken had a knack for disrupting plans. Izuku felt Kaken's hand on his shoulder, gently trying to wake him up. Hey nerd! Izuku sat up abruptly, surprised to find himself just inches away from Kaken. He instinctively leaned back, creating a comfortable space between them as he tried to collect his thoughts. Kaken, is there something you need? He stuttered, the nervousness evident in his voice. Are you okay? Kaken's question caught him off guard. Did Kaken just ask if he was okay? Was this really Kaken? Maybe he was still dreaming. Wise, I am, he managed to reply. Is there something you need, Kaken? Izuku asked, still confused about the situation. Nothing. I was just wondering why you were here early today. I'm usually the first to arrive, but you beat me to it, Kaken said in a low voice. Maybe he was trying to make this a competition. Or maybe not. I woke up earlier than usual, Izuku replied. Kaken simply hummed in response and returned to his chair. Izuku sensed that Kaken wanted to say more but chose to keep quiet. He sighed and pulled out his worksheet, reviewing it to ensure it was well done. As he read, another realization struck him. Kaken hadn't shouted at him. Izuku was beyond confused. What was happening? After realizing that Kaken hadn't yelled, he shrugged it off, thinking maybe Kaken just wasn't in the mood. However, after class, Kaken approached him and asked if he could come to his room later to discuss their assignment. Izuku was baffled. Why would Kaken want to talk about the assignment with him when it seemed so easy for him to understand? This was a huge problem. He was trying to avoid Kaken. He didn't want to fall for him again and risk getting hurt. Midoriya, are you okay? Todoroki's voice snapped him back to reality. He looked up to see his friend watching him with a concerned expression. Am I muttering again? He asked shyly, worried he might be speaking his thoughts aloud. No, but you keep sighing like you have a big problem. You know we're always willing to help, right? Todoroki stated. Yes, Todoroki is right. Midoriya, don't hesitate to ask for help. We're here for you no matter what, Ida added, agreeing with Todoroki. Izuku smiled, feeling grateful for their friendship. Thank you guys. I really appreciate the offer, but I'm fine. Really. I was just spacing out a little, he said, hoping they would accept his excuse. They nodded, though he could tell they knew he wasn't being completely honest. He glanced at Uraraka, hoping. She could sense his discomfort. Uraraka seemed to understand and decided to lighten the mood with her bubbly personality, which worked wonders, making the atmosphere much more uplifting. After classes, Izuku stayed in his dorm for a bit, unsure of what to do. He needed to go to Kaken's room. He didn't want to risk Kaken getting angry if he didn't show up. He sighed again and decided to send a message to his friend. Izu Greenheart, hey Achiko. Kaken wants me to meet him at his room. He wants to talk about a certain assignment. I don't know why, but I'm so nervous, winky face. Almost immediately he received a reply. Float me to the moon, new moon. Oh my gosh. You should have declined. Izu Greenheart, as if that was an actual option. He'd definitely get mad if I said no. Anyway, don't worry too much about me. I can handle myself, I think. Meet me after dinner on the roof. He sent the message and tucked his phone into his pocket. Grabbing his notebook and answer sheets, he headed for the door, sighing once more. What a night. Uraraka's POV. Achiko, can you please calm down? Tsu called to me. We were in her room, and the moment Deku told me he was going to meet Bakugo, I panicked and rushed over while typing a reply. I burst into her room, nearly startling her off her bed. I ended up sharing Deku's feelings for the explosive boy, and Tsu was shocked but quickly composed herself. I knew Deku would forgive me for spilling his secrets to Tsu. After all, they were friends. I just needed her opinion on the matter. How can I calm down? We can't let Deku fall for him harder than he already is. He will get hurt. No, we won't let that happen. I said, my voice filled with determination. We don't even know if Bakugo would actually feel the same, you know, she replied. So you're telling me there's a chance that the explosive one might fall for the sweet cinnamon roll? I asked, struggling to believe it. I wasn't judging Bakugo, I swear. I just couldn't bear to see Deku sad or hurt. If only there were a quirk that could help someone avoid the pain of unrequited love, I would find that person and have them use their ability on Deku. We can't judge him based on our perspective. There must be a reason why Midoriya is in love with him. He always says Bakugo is amazing. Bakugo is indeed impressive when it comes to his quirk and battle skills, but his personality? That's another story. I care for Midoriya too. He's our friend, but we can't just tell him to stop loving Bakugo. It's like asking him to jump into boiling water and insist that it's fine. Maybe his feelings will fade, maybe, she said. Even Tsu was trying to convince herself. It's true that it's not easy to stop loving someone. But I was worried about Deku. I know all of that's it. I really hope Deku won't fall so hard that he can't come back up, I said, my voice lacking enthusiasm. Okay, don't jinx it. Third-person POV. You can do this, Izuku. Just this once. Calm down. Don't let yourself fall too hard. No one will catch you. Stay alert. Izuku kept repeating those lines while pacing back and forth in front of Katsuki's door. He didn't knock yet because he was too nervous. What the hell, nerd? Izuku jumped a little when Kaken appeared at the door and yelled at him. Okay, that's the Kaken he knows. At least he yelled at me this time. Just don't be too nice to me. Don't threaten me with a good time. Are you going to come in or not? Why aren't you knocking? Kaken asked in a less aggressive tone. I'm sorry, Kaken. I was lost in thoughts. I smiled a little, and he nodded before we entered his dorm. For the next 2 hours, nothing special happened. Not that Izuku expected anything extraordinary. The space between them felt comfortable, not too close, but not too far for his liking. Another 10 minutes passed, and Izuku decided to say goodbye to Katsuki since it was past his bedtime. It was already 9 o'clock, and he was feeling sleepy. He hadn't even eaten dinner before coming over, although Kaken had already had his. He lied and told him he had eaten when he hadn't bothered. He also needed to meet Uraraka on the rooftop. He just didn't feel like eating at all. Hopefully, Uraraka was still awake. Kaken, maybe we can continue this tomorrow. The deadline is Friday, and today is Tuesday. We still have time. It's past your bedtime too, he told him. Kaken stared at Izuku for a moment before nodding. This was confusing. Maybe Kaken had something on his mind? He was unusually quiet. Oh well, my heart just survived 2 hours with the person I love. I wonder how I'm still alive. There were so many moments I almost had a heart attack. There are times he gets too close, and I just internally freak out, Izuku thought. Good night, Kaken, he said, flashing a smile that was met with a warm smile from Katsuki, making Izuku's heart skip a beat. Oh no! That smile. It's too much for my heart. Good night, nerd. Yeah, another mini heart attack for Izuku. Izuku was on his way to the rooftop to meet Uraraka when he saw her already waiting for him. You took a long time. I've been waiting here for what feels like hours. So, what happened? She asked, concern evident in her tone. Nothing special happens, Izuku replied. Except for that smile that nearly gave me a heart attack. He's being unusually nice and isn't shouting at me all the time, he thought, but there was no way he would share that with Uraraka. She would definitely freak out. She worries about him constantly. Okay, so how did you survive? Uraraka asked. I'm not really sure. My heart rate definitely goes wild when we're just a foot apart. I almost feel like I'm going to faint, he answered with an awkward laugh. Deku, I'm really worried about you. Don't get your hopes up. No matter what. Don't think he'll fall in love with you. I know it sounds harsh, but it's probably for the best. This is just my opinion, of course. You know Bakugo better than I do, so it's up to you whether you want to hope for something more. If he doesn't feel the same way, remember you can always come to us. Your friends will help you move on, no matter what, she said with a reassuring smile. Her words warmed Izuku's heart, and he felt a few tears welling up. He was truly lucky to have such amazing friends. Thanks, Uraraka. You're right. I won't get my hopes up. Anyway, I'll be heading back to his dorm tomorrow. See you then, Acho. Good night, he said, smiling once more before dashing toward the door, knowing Uraraka would be surprised. What? Was the shocked response he heard from his friend. What a night. Next day. Nothing out of the ordinary happened in class. Just the usual routine. Once class ended, Izuku made his way to Kaken's room. This is it. We're going to finish this assignment, and then I'll avoid him afterward, he thought, feeling a mix of determination and uncertainty about how things would unfold. The same scenario played out as the day before. He hesitated, and then Kaken opened the door, yelling at him for not knocking sooner. They discussed the assignment and managed to finish it. Izuku felt relieved knowing he could submit it to Aizawa-sensei the next day, and he was glad he could focus on his other activities without the weight of unfinished assignments. As he was about to leave and say goodbye, Kaken stopped him, asking him to stay for a moment because he had something to say. Izuku felt a flutter of anxiety. What could Kaken possibly want to discuss? He decided to sit down and listen. 2 minutes passed in silence, with Kaken still hesitating. Izuku grew a bit impatient. He needed to get out of there quickly. The earlier hours hadn't felt so tense because he was focused on his work, but now the silence was palpable, and he was just waiting for Kaken to speak. "Kaken? What do you want to say?" he finally asked, unable to contain his impatience. "Just shut up and listen, nerd. I need to gather some courage to say this." "It's not really me," Katsuki replied, taking a deep breath before continuing. Izuku sat there, waiting for him to find the right words. "I'm sorry." "Huh?" Izuku thought. "Sorry? For what?" He looked at Katsuki, confused. Why was Kaken apologizing? This wasn't like him at all. Katsuki wasn't the type to admit he was wrong. So why apologize? And he was stuttering. Izuku noted that. "For what?" Izuku asked. Katsuki looked at him, surprised. He hadn't expected Izuku to ask that question. "He doesn't even know why I'm apologizing," the blonde thought. He sighed and decided to explain. "Sorry for everything. Everything I've done. Since we were kids until now. Since I started being a JRK and hurting you, both physically and emotionally. I'm really sorry, Deku." Katsuki finished, hoping it wasn't too late to make amends. Izuku smiled a bright smile that could rival the sun. "I forgave you a long time ago, Kaken. I don't hold any grudges. Let's not dwell on the past. Let's cherish the present and look forward to the future," Izuku said. Although a bit shaken by the sudden apology, he felt happy that Kaken had actually taken the step to apologize. "How can you forgive me that easily?" Katsuki asked Izuku, struggling to comprehend the swift forgiveness. "Because I know you. I admire everything about you, and I hope that you will come back to me so we can be friends again," Izuku replied, offering a bright smile. Although he desired a relationship beyond friendship, he was willing to settle for friendship as long as it was with Kaken. "So, friends again?" Katsuki asked. "Friends," Izuku responded, smiling slightly. He is amazing, Katsuki thought, considering the possibility that Izuku might be an actual angel or something. Their conversation came to an end, and Izuku said goodbye to Kaken before heading to his room. He texted Uraraka about what had happened. "Isa Greenheart. Hey Yura. Kaken kind of apologized to me for everything, and we are friends once again." Smiling face with smiling eyes. Seconds later, Uraraka replied, which sometimes bothered Izuku. She always responded so quickly. "Float me to the moon, new moon." "Really? Good for you. I'm happy for you. Just remember that what he offered you is just friendship, nothing more. Guard your heart, Sleep now. We will talk again tomorrow. Good night." Smiling face with heart eyes. Izuku smiled upon reading his friend's message. He sighed, knowing that Uraraka didn't need to remind him. He understood that it was just friendship and nothing more. He might be a little disappointed, but at least he could talk to Kaken without being yelled at, which felt more normal. Well, Kaken would definitely still yell, but that was part of who he was. He is not Kaken if he isn't like that. Maybe this feeling will fade soon. There's no way I will tell Kaken about these feelings of mine. Now that we've revived our friendship, I won't ruin it because of this. If I could, I would hide these feelings for the rest of my life. Katsuki was a little confused. What was this feeling? He couldn't understand why he felt this way. He wasn't supposed to feel like this. But he had just apologized to his childhood friend an hour ago, and now he was completely bewildered. It was this strange feeling he had towards Deku, only Deku. It felt so new and unfamiliar that he didn't know what to do. He couldn't ask Kirishima, Ishido, Kaminari, or Siro. Not anyone from his squad. Not that he would admit to them that he considered them friends. He needed someone to talk to about these feelings he had for Deku. An idea formed in his mind, but he kept denying it. He could message his mother and ask about his feelings, or maybe call her. He needed answers. So, he started dialing his mother's number. Seconds later, Bakugo Mitsuki picked up. "What do you want, brat?" she said immediately. Katsuki scoffed and glared at the wall. I just want to ask you a question, old hag. Katsuki replied in a controlled voice. He didn't want anyone to overhear what he was about to tell his mother, especially that certain hero in training with a hearing quirk. He knew there was a possibility that Jiro had heard his apology to Deku. As long as nobody teased him about it, everything would be fine. Mitsuki sensed something was off. Her son, Katsuki, rarely called, so she knew this must be serious for him to reach out at 9:30 in the evening, well past his bedtime. What do you need to ask? Don't tell me you got some random girl PRD because I will kick your butt, she said aggressively, which was typical for them. What? Shut up, egg. That's definitely not going to happen. Katsuki replied, annoyed. His mother was getting on his nerves. Then tell me. Come on. I'm listening, brat. His mother yelled from the other end. Okay, chill will you? I just want to ask you about certain feelings. I'm confused, so I need answers. What feelings? You know, I get nervous easily, there's something strange going on in my stomach, my face heats up, and there are times I can't stop myself from smiling, he explained. His mother fell silent for a moment before responding. Can you explain further? She asked. He groaned but answered anyway. I mean, it happens whenever a certain person is with me. I can't quite explain it, but I can't stop thinking about him. His smiles, his laugh, his voice, even his muttering, I love it. Although his muttering can be kind of annoying sometimes. I don't know what to think. I can even see his face whenever I close my eyes. He felt his cheeks heat up from this confession. I bet you already have an idea of what this feeling is, right? His mother asked. Yeah. He responded, knowing he needed to hear it from his mother to truly confirm it. Brat, you are in love. He's definitely in love, and hearing it from his mother only intensified the realization. He couldn't deny it any longer. Mind telling me who is the unlucky girl that caught your attention and snatched your heart? From the tone of his mother's voice, he could tell she was smirking. He felt annoyed. If he didn't need answers, he wouldn't have called her. Girl? I just referred to the person as he, and Deku is not a girl, he replied flatly. He could hear his mother gasp on the other end. Shock much, Mom? Katsuki thought. Inko's boy? Really? Deku? The Midoriya Izuku? Are you serious? Of course I am, he shouted. He then heard his mother squeal like a teenager, followed by his father's voice asking about something. Katsuki, if he loves you back, you should tell me right away. And never let him go. Bye. Sleep tight. His mother hung up, clearly surprised that her son might not be interested in girls, but she didn't expect him to fall in love with a boy. And that boy was Izuku. Katsuki felt dumbfounded by his mother's reaction. How could Deku love him back? He was sure Deku wouldn't feel the same way after everything he had done. But let's think about it. If Deku hated him, then why did he stay by his side even when Katsuki pushed him away? Why did Deku stick around? Maybe he just wanted to be friends again. Friends? Just friends. He fell asleep feeling heartbroken, convinced that Deku would never reciprocate his feelings. Ever. Oh, if he only knew. The next morning, Katsuki felt terrible. He hadn't gotten enough sleep because of the feelings that kept bothering him. Just confess already. His mind kept urging him to confess, but that would never be easy. He had just become friends with Deku, and he didn't know if Deku felt the same way or if he was even interested in guys. He sighed, and it seemed that the green-haired boy sitting behind him noticed his downcast expression and decided to ask if he was all right. Of course, this is Deku we're talking about. He always worries about others but doesn't care about himself. The ever-selfless Deku. I'm fine, nerd. Just woke up on the wrong side of the bed, he said in a low, tired voice. He looked at Deku, and his heart skipped a beat. Deku looked so cute and mesmerizing. His eyes sparkled like emeralds, his freckles were adorable, and his unruly curls swayed slightly. He looked so beautiful that Katsuki couldn't take his eyes off him. Then he was hopelessly in love, and it was scary because it might not be reciprocated. What do you mean, the wrong side of the bed? Deku asked, tilting his head to the side, making him look even more adorable. God, this adorableness might just be his downfall. It means I woke up on the floor, nerd, he replied, which made Deku laugh a little because he found it funny. Soon after, Katsuki chuckled as well, which earned a gasp from someone. That someone was none other than 1A's queen of gossip, Ishido Mina. Bakugo! The Bakugo Katsuki just laughed? And smiled, she exclaimed almost hysterically. It caught the attention of all their classmates, which only annoyed the explosive blonde. Whoa! I missed it! Denki complained, lamenting the rare sight. Soon enough, everyone began asking questions, which only irritated Katsuki more, prompting him to explode. Shut up, extras, he yelled. Language, Bakugo! They all turned their heads to see their homeroom teacher. The chaos that had unfolded suddenly vanished as everyone returned to their seats. Classes began, but Bakugo couldn't focus because he kept remembering Deku's adorable face. As everyone settled down for class, 3 people were left confused. Ishido didn't see the emotions in Bakugo's eyes, but Aizawa, Uraraka, and Todoroki did. Uraraka had noticed it. The look in the blonde's eyes. She recognized it. That was how her father looked at her mother, a look full of love. Did this mean Bakugo might be in love with Deku? Could Deku's feelings be reciprocated? There was a chance? She really hoped her theory was correct because Deku's happiness was at stake. She couldn't risk her friend's heart on mere speculation. She decided to keep her thoughts to herself for now. She needed to get to the bottom of this. She needed to know if Bakugo would truly reciprocate her friend's feelings. She needed to know if there was a chance that Bakugo might love Deku as well. Oh, Deku would be so happy. Todoroki is beyond shocked. But because one of his theories might actually be true. Bakugo Katsuki is in love with Midoriya Izuku, and vice versa. He has gathered so much evidence that he could create a 200-slide PowerPoint presentation to support his claims. He could even write a 100-page essay if necessary. It all started when he noticed Bakugo glaring at him. Yes, Bakugo always glares at him. He seems to dislike him intensely, and Todoroki has never understood why. But that's not the main issue. The real issue is that Bakugo is glaring at him because he is talking to Midoriya. This glare is different from the usual ones he receives during their competitive displays of power. At first, Todoroki couldn't quite place what kind of glare it was, but after testing some theories, he found some success, though not enough to prove his point. Bakugo's glares intensify whenever Todoroki is near Midoriya, especially when he makes Midoriya laugh, which is easy because Midoriya has such a bright and cheerful personality. He laughs even at the most mundane jokes. Todoroki suspects that Bakugo is jealous. He isn't oblivious. He has some understanding of these kinds of feelings, so connecting the dots isn't difficult. However, he still lacks solid proof. That is, until he caught a certain look in Bakugo's eyes. In that moment he was certain. His theory was true. He didn't need much more evidence, just that look, and everything clicked into place. The glares, the stolen glances, the slight blush, and so much more. That look was the most significant proof. He recognized it. He had seen that look on Sato, when he gazed at his baked goods, on Momo when she admired her tea, on Ida when he was engrossed in his books, and on Uraraka when she spotted food or money. All of them described it the same way. It was love. That look was filled with affection. It was the expression of someone who is in love, gazing at the person or things they cherish. And that was how Todoroki would describe Bakugo's face when he looked at Midoriya. It was clear, Bakugo was smitten. He could see it. He was love-struck. Aizawa couldn't believe his eyes. He wondered if he was hallucinating. But this was not an illusion. He had definitely seen it. Bakugo looked at Midoriya with such warmth, like a lovesick fool. Aizawa recognized that look. He had seen it many times in others who were in love. But what? Why Bakugo? The fierce Bakugo Katsuki was in love with Midoriya Izuku? It wasn't impossible, but he never thought it could happen. His problem child, Midoriya, was a kind and sweet kid. His classmates affectionately called him a walking broccoli or a cinnamon roll. His smile could rival the sun, and his laughter was like music. Even his muttering, though sometimes annoying, brightened their days because without it, their days felt incomplete. Aizawa understood Midoriya's impact on others, but he never expected Bakugo to be affected by it. As long as these problem children weren't trying to harm each other, he could sleep peacefully. Kirishima was grinning from ear to ear. He was happy. Because he was now dating Denki. Yes, Kaminari Denki. They had just gotten together last week, and he was overjoyed. He knew their relationship was progressing quickly, but that didn't matter to him. His plan was to be with Denki for the long haul. That was their mutual goal. However, he wanted to tell Bakugo. Denki felt the same way. They both wanted to share their news with Bakugo but hesitated. They were unsure about Bakugo's views on same-sex relationships. They hoped he would accept them. They felt a bit more confident because if their theory about Bakugo was correct, there was a good chance he would be understanding. So, they found themselves outside Bakugo's room, ready to share their news. There was no turning back now. They had managed to keep it a secret for a week, but now they were determined to tell him. Kiri, do you think he will be okay with this? Kaminari asked his boyfriend. Kirishima shrugged. He trusted his instincts. He believed their friend would accept them, even if Bakugo was known for being aggressive. I don't know, but I'm hoping he will, he replied, genuinely hopeful. Accept what? Both Kirishima and Denki turned their heads toward the voice, spotting Bakugo Katsuki glaring at them. Oh hey, Baku bro. Kirishima stuttered, while Denki face-bombed. What are you two talking about, shitty hair and dunce face? Bakugo asked as he approached them. They both sweat-dropped at the names, wondering if Bakugo even knew their real names since he never used them. See, can we talk privately? Denki suggested. Bakugo simply nodded and allowed them into his room, which was a rare occurrence. Okay, now talk, Bakugo said in a surprisingly calm voice, leaving both of them a bit shocked, but they decided to let it slide. Bro, Kaminari and I are dating, Kirishima announced, surprising himself with his confidence. He managed to say it without stuttering, even though he wasn't exactly straight. Bakugo looked at them, his expression unreadable, which made the two of them nervous as they awaited his response. Oh, Bakugo replied, leaving them confused. Oh, that's all you have to say? Kaminari asked. What do you expect me to say? Insult you? I'm not against situations like this. Even my own mother wouldn't mind. I mean, I don't care that you two are together. As long as you don't annoy me, we're good. Congratulations. His words brought smiles to their faces. They were relieved that Bakugo accepted them, and he was surprised at his own reaction. Actually, there's something I need to tell you both, Bakugo said, prompting Kirishima and Kaminari to exchange glances that seemed to say, do you think this is it? Are you going to tell us that you're in love with Midoriya? Kaminari asked bravely, causing Kirishima to sweat drop at his boyfriend's boldness. Yes. I mean what? Bakugo internally panicked. How did they know? Was he that obvious? If he was, then maybe Deku knew too. Unless the nerd was just dense. How did you know? Bakugo asked seriously, realizing there was no point in denying something so evident. Wow. Dude, you really are in love with him. I can't believe my intuition was right. This is a first. Kaminari exclaimed, nearly in tears. Kirishima was also shedding manly tears. The heck? Why are you two crying? Am I that obvious? Bakugo asked, frustrated with his friends. Bro, you are so obvious. The way you look at him, the way you glare at Todoroki whenever he's near Midoriya, and the way you smile to yourself after staring at him. Kirishima pointed out, with Kaminari nodding in agreement. Yeah. We always catch you staring at Midoriya with those shining eyes, like he's someone precious to you. No worries, bro. We won't tell anyone. We won't spoil it for you, Kaminari said with a smirk. You better not, Bakugo sighed. But bro, when are you going to confess? Kirishima asked. I won't. He won't feel the same. Definitely not, Bakugo replied. The two exchanged glances, thinking, he didn't notice? Bakugo was oblivious to the fact that Midoriya's gaze mirrored his own. How can you say that? Midoriya might feel the same way. Don't you want to find out? Kaminari pressed, surprised to see Bakugo lacking confidence. I don't know. Just give me time to think about it, Bakugo said. The two friends grew more excited, cooking up a plan in their heads to bring Midoriya and Bakugo together. They knew that both of them might not realize their mutual feelings, and they were determined to help. Izuku woke up early again, not rushing to school, which was a bit unusual for him. After Kaken apologized last week, their relationship had improved significantly. They were talking normally now. Kaken still shouted at him sometimes, but it was less aggressive, which made Izuku happy. However, it was also a bit dangerous for his heart, as he felt himself falling harder for Kaken whenever he was nice. He was also suspicious of Uraraka. Previously, she had been against him developing feelings for Katsuki, believing they wouldn't be reciprocated. But now, she seemed genuinely happy about Kaken's kindness and no longer warned him. She often wanted to hear about his time with Kaken, especially since they studied together every Monday and Wednesday evening from 7:30 to 8:30, and almost all day on weekends. He spends more time with Kaken now, and it brings him joy. He's glad that Kaken treats him normally again. However, the more they hang out, the more he finds himself falling for him all over again. He can't help it, but he also doesn't want to be apart from Kaken. They've just regained their friendship, and he refuses to waste this opportunity to be with him, even if Kaken only sees him as a friend. For now, friendship is enough. He can't afford to lose Kaken and their bond again. Hey nerd! Kaken's voice snaps him out of his thoughts. It's no surprise to see him this early. Kaken is always punctual. You still don't know how to tie your tie properly? He says with a deadpan expression. How could this nerd not learn? He thinks. Sorry Kaken. I didn't know how. Ida and Todoroki tried teaching me, but I still can't do it, Izuku admits shyly, feeling his cheeks warm as he hears Kaken chuckle. Kaken's laugh is music to my ears. Kaken steps closer and adjusts Izuku's tie for him. The gesture overwhelms him slightly, but he tries to maintain his composure. He thanks Kaken, who responds with a smile. They start walking again, side by side, heading towards Class 3A's classroom. Little do they know Midnight and Present Mike are watching, their mouths agape. It's not an illusion, right? You see what I see and hear what I heard, right? Midnight. Present Mike nearly panics, but Midnight stops him. Not so loud, Mike, she whispers, concerned that the students might hear. You're not hallucinating. I know they sometimes walk to school together early. That's typical for Bakugo, but now Midoriya is with him. They turn to see Aizawa inside his sleeping bag. So this happens often now? Midnight asks Aizawa. The three of them are aware of Bakugo's past animosity towards Midoriya, and it's shocking to see them interacting calmly, as if they are friends discussing their day. And Bakugo just tied Midoriya's tie? Unbelievable. Just for a few days now. Not every day though. It's a surprise to me as well. Whatever happened between them to change their dynamic is a good thing. Less stress for me, since I usually have to break them apart when they're at each other's throats. Mostly Bakugo, who is often too aggressive towards Midoriya. Hopefully this continues. I don't want to deal with them fighting again, Aizawa grumbles before drifting back to sleep. A few minutes later, the two are in the classroom, conversing normally at least until some of their classmates arrive. They try to ignore each other when others are around. In fact, only a few know their friends again, Uraraka, Kirishima, and Kaminari. Uraraka is aware of Izuku's feelings and knows about Katsuki's apology. Kirishima and Kaminari learned about Bakugo's feelings for Deku when he confided in them. As for the rest of the class, only a couple, like Todoroki and Tokoyami, have noticed the change. The others remain oblivious, including the class gossip, who fails to pick up on the different atmospheres surrounding the duo. Today's class isn't particularly productive, at least academically. The lessons are challenging, leaving them drained by the end. They head back to their dorms without speaking to their friends. All they want is to sleep. However, for Izuku and Katsuki, even though they feel exhausted, they choose to hang out together. Izuku finds himself in Katsuki's room, and they play video games. Both need a mental break after the day's lessons, and hanging out is the perfect way to refresh. For Bakugo, this is another chance to have Deku to himself. Though they usually hang out on Mondays, Wednesdays, and weekends, today is Tuesday, and since Deku's friends are too tired, he gets to spend time with Deku now. He can't help but grin at the thought. For Izuku, this is a moment of relaxation. Spending time with a friend, even if that friend means so much more to him. Kaken is incredible, and he wishes for something deeper between them. The thought of Kaken not feeling the same way makes him a little sad. Noticing Izuku's troubled expression, Katsuki starts to worry. What's wrong with Deku? Why does he look so down? Deku? Why do you look down? Katsuki asked, noticing Izuku's expression. Izuku looked up, surprised that Kaken had actually noticed him. I'm not sad, Kaken. Just a bit drained from what happened in class, he replied, offering a genuine but somewhat weak smile. Do you want to sleep? Katsuki inquired. Izuku wanted to say no. He wanted to spend more time with Kaken. He felt a bit clingy and worried that Kaken might not appreciate it. Besides, Kaken probably needed rest too. Yeah. Sorry, Kaken. We can hang out again tomorrow. Good night. See you in class, Izuku said, getting up and walking toward the door. Katsuki nodded as he watched him leave the room, letting out a sigh. He had hoped Deku would say no and stay longer, but he looked exhausted and needed sleep. Katsuki himself felt drained after the difficult lesson. Even the smartest students struggled to keep up. Perhaps there were limits to intelligence after all. Just as Katsuki was about to go to bed, his phone dinged, signaling a new message. He glanced at it and saw who had sent it. Old hag expressionless face. Brat, what's going on? Any progress with Izuku? Are you just staring at him and not doing anything? You might lose your chance. Man up and confess. It would make this family happy if Izuku became a part of it, officially. Smirking face. Katsuki groaned at the message. His mother was so annoying. Why couldn't she just wait? His phone dinged again. Old hag expressionless face. This weekend, invite Izuku over for dinner. I'm inviting Inko, so you better invite her son. Understand? Katsuki groaned once more. Dinner? He had planned to hang out with Izuku all weekend, and now he had to spend it with his Deku and his mother. He sighed. He might as well invite Deku. He knew his mother adored Izuku, and it would definitely make her happy to see him. Katsuki collision. Just don't mention my feelings to him. I'm working on it. Don't interfere. He replied before going to sleep. The next day, the class made its way to their classroom. It was a rare sight to see, as 18 out of 20 students were trudging down the hallway, looking utterly exhausted. They looked like they could pass out at any moment. Upon reaching the classroom, most of them were stunned. What are we witnessing? They wondered. They saw Midoriya writing quickly in his notebook, muttering something under his breath. Meanwhile, Bakugo was staring off into space, so lost in thought that he didn't even notice their classmates watching them. A minute passed before Midoriya finally noticed them and greeted them. They responded and entered the room, lingering at the door until one of the two seated students acknowledged them. Once inside, they took their seats and a little chatter broke out, but it quickly faded into silence. The only sound was their breathing as they realized they had arrived super early, only 7 a.m. The silence was broken by Ida, who gasped in surprise. The reason was unclear to everyone, except for a certain explosive blonde who remained oblivious. Everyone turned their attention to Ida, who was staring at Izuku as if he had seen a ghost. Midoriya, I'm proud of you. You finally tied your tie properly, he exclaimed. Instantly, the whole class turned to their resident cinnamon roll and noticed his perfectly tied tie, which was indeed a rare sight. Seriously? What's the big deal about the nerd's tie? Bakugo shouted, breaking the peaceful morning atmosphere. The class sighed. It's not a huge deal, but it is an improvement, Todoroki stated in his usual monotone. The class collectively sighed again, and then they noticed Midoriya blushing as he looked at his tie. Why is he blushing? Is he shy about the compliments? Mina wondered. A blushing Izuku was nothing new. He always got flustered. Why are you blushing, Midoriya? Are you embarrassed? Mina asked, her curiosity piqued. You'd know that I mean why yes, Izuku stuttered. Come on, man. Don't be embarrassed, Kirishima encouraged, trying to ease Izuku's discomfort. They continued chatting until Aizawa arrived, surprised to see his class behaving so strangely. What happened to these problem children? He thought. First, it's Midoriya and Bakugo. Now they're all acting odd. I wonder why. Their class began, And while it felt a bit boring from their perspective, they managed to get through it. Unlike the previous day, this was more bearable and they weren't as drained. As their heroics class came to an end, they headed back to their dorms. They no longer looked like zombies, they appeared tired but not as exhausted as yesterday. They were actually chatting with each other, making plans to hang out after dinner to watch some movies. Once they stepped inside their dorm and started toward their rooms, Bakugo suddenly approached Izuku and whispered something to him, prompting a nod from Izuku. Their interaction did not go unnoticed by Todoroki, Uraraka, Kaminari, Kirishima, and Ida. Ida felt confused and worried, unsure of what was happening between the two, and he wondered if Bakugo was bothering Midoriya again. However, he noticed that Izuku didn't flinch at Bakugo's whisper, so he decided to let it go. Whatever it was, he would find out eventually. Meanwhile, Kaminari and Kirishima exchanged smirks. "Do you think he will confess?" Kaminari asked his boyfriend. "Hopefully," Kirishima replied. They were whispering, but it seemed someone had overheard them. That someone was none other than Uraraka Achiko, the self-proclaimed founder of the Deku Protection Squad. "Kaminari, Kirishima, can we talk?" The two jumped at the sound of her voice from behind. When they turned to see her, they shivered. She was smiling, but it wasn't her usual cheerful smile. It was the kind that said, "I heard what you two were talking about." Hesitant but knowing they had no choice, they agreed to talk. They decided to head to the rooftop. "Uraraka, what do you want to talk about?" Kaminari asked. "What else?" "It's about Deku and Bakugo, of course," she said with a smile. "I know you two know something. I just want to help my friend. I don't want him to get hurt, so I need to confirm something." "Does Bakugo like Deku?" she asked bluntly. Kaminari and Kirishima exchanged glances and nodded. "But Uraraka, this stays between us, okay? We can't tell anyone," Kirishima pleaded. She smiled and nodded in agreement. "Of course. I just wanted some confirmation because Deku feels the same." The duo's faces lit up with smiles. "Yeah, I knew it," Kaminari exclaimed, breaking into a silly dance. "So, are we going to give them a push?" Uraraka asked the duo. They looked at each other and smiled. "We've been planning to do something actually. Are you in?" Kirishima asked her. "I'm in," she replied, her smile growing wider. "With Izuku and Katsuki." "Hey, nerd, is something bothering you?" Katsuki asked, genuinely concerned. He had noticed the green-haired boy was lost in thought during class. "Nothing, Kakin. It's just that I can't believe we're here right now. So much has happened since our first year. Some of it made me feel like I wouldn't survive, but here I am, alive. Just thinking about it overwhelms me, and I can't stop replaying it in my mind. It makes me a little scared because we're not even pros yet, but we've already been through so much. Still, it makes us more aware of the world we live in. I'm just so proud that we've grown stronger. I'm grateful and happy that we're still here, together," Izuku said, smiling. Deep down, he felt a sense of paranoia, sensing that this calm might be a prelude to something more chaotic, but he knew this was a familiar feeling for them. "Stop overthinking, nerd. Want to watch some movies?" Katsuki suggested. He understood how hard it was for everyone to remember their past experiences, but those moments had shaped who they were today. He was worried about Izuku because he tended to overthink and sometimes drew irrational conclusions that left him anxious all day. "What movie?" Izuku asked. "Your choice," Katsuki replied simply. Izuku giggled and began to pick a movie. Katsuki tried to hide the blush creeping onto his face, caught off guard by the sound of Izuku's laughter. "God, that sounds beautiful," he thought. After a couple of minutes, Izuku finally chose a movie, and they settled in to watch it together. They occasionally argued, as Katsuki thought the protagonist was lame while Izuku found him cool. "Come on, Kakin, you have poor taste. He looks awesome," Izuku whined. "No. He looks so lame," Katsuki protested. They began arguing again and again until the climax of the movie was shown. Minutes later, Katsuki felt something on his shoulder and saw that it was Izuku's head resting there, sound asleep. Katsuki didn't move. As the movie credits rolled, he stared at the screen until he too drifted off, unaware that he and Izuku were cuddling. The next morning, Katsuki felt an unusual warmth. It was comforting, making him want to stay right where he was. It felt like home, a warmth his heart longed for. He remained still until realization struck him. Could it be? He thought, slowly opening his eyes. He looked down to see a mop of green hair. Oh no! I'm hugging Deku. Katsuki's face flushed, and his heart raced, fearing that Izuku might wake up. He carefully tried to free himself from Izuku's embrace, even though he wished he could hold him like that all day. But it would be awkward. After successfully extricating himself, he gently placed Izuku back in bed, ensuring not to wake him. They didn't have class that day, as Aizawa-sensei had announced an important faculty meeting the day before. After making sure Izuku was still sound asleep, Katsuki left the room and headed to the kitchen to make breakfast. He knew the nerd usually had cereal, always rushing in the mornings without time for a proper meal or even to fix his hair or tie his tie correctly. Katsuki chuckled at the memory of how delighted Izuku had been with his tie yesterday, a far cry from his usual perfectionist self. While preparing breakfast, Kirishima and Kaminari entered the kitchen, greeting him with smiles. Katsuki grunted in response, feeling unusually good and not wanting to shout at them. Hey Bakubro! Did you confess yet? Kirishima asked, whispering the last part. I did not. Katsuki replied, continuing his task. Oh man, when are you going to confess? Do you really think Izuku wouldn't feel the same? Kaminari whined, his frustration evident. The slow burn was killing him, and he wanted them to be together already. Shut up, dunce face. How could he feel the same after everything I've done? Katsuki snapped bitterly. Didn't you apologize? Didn't he say he forgave you? Kirishima asked, confused by Katsuki's reluctance. He did forgive me, but I can't forgive myself just yet, Katsuki said before leaving the two boys to ponder his words. After that conversation, Katsuki realized something profound. He didn't feel he deserved Izuku's forgiveness. How could Izuku forgive him after everything that had happened? Just because Deku forgives me, it doesn't mean he will love me back, he thought, the pain of that realization lingering in his mind. Kaken! Katsuki snapped out of his thoughts at the sound of Izuku's voice. The boy looked slightly confused and disoriented, rubbing his eyes until realization dawned on him. Oh my god! Izuku suddenly yelled, causing Katsuki to nearly drop the tray of food he was holding. What the hell? Why did you shout? He asked, glaring at the greenette, who smiled shyly in response. Cute, Katsuki muttered unconsciously, almost regretting it. Huh? Izuku blinked, surprised. Nothing. By the way, why did you shout? Katsuki quickly changed the subject. But I was just as shocked. Why know that I woke up in your room, Izuku stammered, blushing. Heh, you get flustered so easily, nerd, Katsuki teased, enjoying the sight of Izuku's blush deepening. This only made him laugh more. Izuku stared at Katsuki, wide-eyed, his heart racing. Oh no! This is bad for my heart, he thought. Kaken! Stop laughing at me, he whined, pouting. Katsuki felt his own cheeks heat up, affected by the adorableness radiating from the greenette. Just eat. We don't have class today. Do you have any plans for today? He asked the greenette, hoping he was free to hang out with him. It felt like a wish granted when he heard the nerd's response. Nope. I don't have anything planned for today, except for doing my assignments, Izuku replied while eating his breakfast. After their meal, they spent the day together playing video games. Katsuki felt content and happy to be with Izuku at that moment. However, their happy time was interrupted when someone called Izuku, and he suddenly said he needed to go. It frustrated Katsuki, but at least he had enjoyed cuddling with him all night. Sorry, Kaken. I need to accompany Uraraka and Ida today. They are going to the mall and asked me to join them. Let's hang out again this weekend, Izuku said before leaving his room. Katsuki sighed, remembering the dinner his mom had set up for that weekend. Demon, I forgot to tell Deku. Well, I can tell him later or tomorrow. We were going to hang out this weekend anyway, he thought. So? How are you and Bakugo? Izuku was startled by Ida's question. They were at the mall, just wandering around and not really doing anything. He actually didn't want to leave. If he had a choice, he would hang out with Kaken all day. Am I that obvious? Does Ida know? What do you mean, Ida? He asked. Well, I saw him whisper something to you yesterday, and you didn't flinch at all. I just find it rather interesting, Ida said while adjusting his glasses. Ida-kun, maybe they are friends now? Uraraka teased, trying to poke fun at her green-haired friend. I didn't notice that, actually. He just asked me to study with him, Izuku replied, stuttering as usual. Well, that's rather amusing. You are studying together. Hopefully, you become good friends so you don't have to fight each other all the time outside our training. It's kind of giving me headaches, Ida said, pinching the bridge of his nose. Uraraka giggled at this. Oh my, Ida-kun. I am actually used to it by now. We've all been together for almost 3 years. Bakugo's yelling is somewhat like annoying music, but we have no choice but to listen, Uraraka stated, and the three of them started laughing. I should be reprimanding you for insulting a classmate, but I kind of agree with you, so I will let it slide, Ida said, adjusting his glasses again. And Ida-kun's rules are already a part of our daily routine. Sorry for the language, but wow. We've been through a lot. I am so happy that we are still here and almost pros, Uraraka added, giggling. Yeah, I am also happy, Izuku agreed with her. After 2 hours of window shopping and another 2 hours of actual shopping, they were finally heading home. Dudes, my feet hurt. Uraraka complained, leaning on Izuku's arm for support. She was exhausted from their non-stop walking. They hadn't even had a chance to sit down for even 2 minutes. I am so tired. How did we end up window shopping for almost 2 hours? Ida started to complain as well. He felt so drained that all he wanted was to collapse into bed and sleep. Come on guys, it's not that bad, Izuku teased his friends, which earned him a look that clearly said, Are you serious? He just laughed at their reaction. Suddenly, both of them were holding onto Izuku's arms for support while walking, envious of his incredible stamina. Why are you not tired? We've been walking for 4 hours. Uraraka kept complaining until they reached their dorm, where they were greeted by their classmates in the common room. Oh. Ida and Uraraka look pretty worn out. What happened? Mina asked. We went window shopping for 2 hours and then another 2 hours for actual shopping. That means we've been walking for more than 4 hours. Not to mention we also walked from the train station, then to UA, and finally here to our dorm, Izuku explained, and their classmates chuckled. It was surprising to them that Izuku was still on his feet and didn't need any support at all. He barely seemed tired. Bro, your stamina is impressive, Kirishima commented. Yeah. You're amazing, Izuku. Kaminari agreed. Heh, I'm still better than him. They all turned their heads to see Bakugo with his signature angry expression. They chuckled at his reaction while Kirishima and Kaminari exchanged nervous glances. Diamen, he is hopeless. If I didn't know about Midoriya's feelings for him, I would definitely think he didn't have a chance, Kirishima thought. Bakugo is hopeless, was all that crossed Kaminari's mind. Little did they know, the Pomeranian was fuming with jealousy. How dare they touch Deku that way? You round face and 4 eyes, he thought. Yes, folks, the Pomeranian was jealous. Very jealous. Maybe he should just confess already. The next day, they were already in their classroom. Aizawa was discussing something, but only half the class was actually listening. Because others were too busy thinking about other things. Katsuki was staring intently at his desk, the jealousy in his heart screaming. Todoroki was spacing out, which was unusual. Uraraka was silently complaining about her foot, which still hurt. Mina and Kaminari felt like they could fall asleep at any moment. Others had their own reasons for not paying attention. On the other hand, Izuku was furiously scribbling in his notebook, surprisingly quiet. He wasn't mumbling, which puzzled Aizawa. Usually, when Izuku took notes, he would mumble incoherent words that only he could understand. But right now, he was just writing very fast. Okay class, I will be giving you an activity to be completed this weekend, he said, earning a collective groan from the students. Weekend? Activity? Come on. They were supposed to be relaxing on weekends. Activities! They all shouted together, except for Bakugo and Izuku, who seemed to be in their own little world. Aizawa doubted they even heard about the activity. He would let it pass, but he couldn't help but notice that Midoriya and Bakugo looked deep in thought, not their usual selves. Aizawa sighed, reminding himself to talk to the two later. Okay, regarding the activity, I will be pairing you up. No complaints. Kirishima and Kaminari. Ashido and Hanta. Jiro and Yaoyuruzo. Koda and Sato. Midoriya and Bakugo. Todoroki and Uraraka. Mineta and Ida. Tokoyami and Azui. Shoji and Aoyama. Ojiro and Hagakure. After assigning the pairs, he explained what they needed to do. The class didn't complain, and surprisingly, Bakugo didn't either. Others looked confused, except for Kirishima, Kaminari, Uraraka, Todoroki, and Aizawa. Kirishima, Kaminari, and Uraraka knew about their feelings, while Todoroki and Aizawa sensed something different in Bakugo's eyes. The confused looks on their classmates' faces didn't go unnoticed by Bakugo, who ignored them. He didn't have time for their nonsense. But did Aizawa just say he was paired with Deku? Why are we always paired together? He asked himself. He was always stuck with Deku. If he were still the Katsuki who saw Deku as an enemy, he would definitely complain, but not now. He wasn't like that anymore. He was in love with Deku, and any opportunity to be with him felt like a gift. So, he would not complain. It seems like you are stuck with me, Kaken, Izuku stated, making both of them laugh. They were in Katsuki's room, discussing what they needed to do for the activity assigned to them. Aizawa-sensei always makes sure we stick together, Katsuki chuckled. He was actually enjoying it. He would definitely thank Aizawa-sensei in the future for always pushing him and Deku together. He wouldn't complain about the time spent with Deku. Alone. All their classmates were in their respective dorms with their partners, discussing. Izuku and Katsuki had already finished half of the activity and were now playing video games. They had eaten dinner a little early so they could enjoy their time afterward. Deku, I remember my mom wants me to invite you for dinner tomorrow. She said weekend, so I assume it's tomorrow, he told the brunette, who suddenly smiled, looking incredibly happy. Wow. I get to talk to Aunt Mitsuki and Uncle Masaru, he exclaimed. Katsuki smiled at Izuku's reaction. He really liked his parents. They were always super nice to Izuku, especially his mother. Seriously? You're that excited? Katsuki teased. Izuku just smiled back, his eyes shining like precious gems. Katsuki found himself lost in those eyes. He wanted to know what Izuku was saying, but all he could hear was the loud beating of his heart. Diamond those green eyes, Katsuki thought. Those bright green eyes that he wanted to see first thing every morning. It felt like his whole day would be perfect if those green eyes were the first thing he saw. Or that face. That adorable face. Everything about Deku screamed adorableness, his eyes, his brows, his nose, his freckles, and those lips. Kaken? Kaken? He snapped out of his daze when he finally heard that sweet voice. Ding, I feel like I'm losing my consciousness just by hearing his voice. At that moment, Katsuki knew he was deeply in love. He was overwhelmed by a feeling he couldn't resist. Deku should take responsibility for making me fall this hard for him. This is his fault. He's just so adorable. Those eyes. Those green eyes looking at me. How can a simple glance from him make me feel this way? A small smile, a giggle, a laugh. Those eyes tell me that everything will be all right. Are you okay? Izuku snapped him out of his thoughts again, looking so worried that Katsuki felt guilty for making him anxious. He cleared his throat before answering. Why, I'm fine. What the heck? Did I just stutter? Katsuki was startled by his own reaction. Do you want to sleep already? I could head back to my room if you want, Izuku said with a smile. Katsuki's heart raced again, and he tried his best to hide his flustered expression, but he realized he didn't need to hide it because of how oblivious Izuku could be. Kaken? Do you have a fever? Izuku asked, and Katsuki could only sigh. This is unfair. Am I the only one who feels this way? Katsuki wondered. Oh boy. If only you knew. Go back to your room now and sleep. Let's talk about this again tomorrow. I really want to sleep now, Katsuki stated. No, I don't want to sleep yet, and I'm sure I won't be able to sleep right away after this. Being this close to you is something I can't handle. Demand those green eyes. Those freckles. Okay, Kaken. Although it's too early for me to sleep. Maybe I'll hang out with Uraraka or Ida or Todoroki if they're done discussing with their partners. See you tomorrow. Good night, Izuku said before leaving without waiting for a response. Izuku felt a little sad that what was supposed to be another night spent with Kaken was cut short. I wonder what's going on with him. Izuku felt a twinge of worry. They had been fine a moment ago, and then Kaken suddenly started spacing out. I hope he's okay, Izuku thought as he decided to head to the common room. When he arrived, he saw 3 of his friends he had mentioned to Kaken earlier. Back with Katsuki, he slightly regretted pushing Izuku away. Just hearing the name of a certain half-cold, half-hot boy made him feel jealous. Why is Deku even friends with him? And why does he have so many friends? He thought. He knew that Izuku would attract more and more people. Should I confess? Katsuki asked himself. He couldn't let others take Izuku away, right? There might be someone out there who also wanted to be with him. So he needed to do this. Whether he got rejected or not, he had to try. In the common room, Uraraka, Ida, Izuku, and Todoroki were happily chatting when Uraraka noticed Kirishima giving her a look that said, "We need to talk." She excused herself from her friends, telling them she needed to talk to Kirishima about something, which Izuku found a bit odd but shrugged off for now. Upon reaching the kitchen, Uraraka found Denki sitting on one of the stools and Kirishima on the other. She smiled as she approached them. "Is it safe to talk about this in the kitchen?" Uraraka asked. "Actually no. We'd prefer to talk in your room or mine. Or maybe Denki's. It depends on you. I have a suggestion, but I'm not sure if it will work," Kirishima said, earning a nod from Uraraka. "Maybe let's talk in your room. I'll just tell my friends, especially Deku, that Kaminari asked for my help with something. He'll definitely find it odd and suspicious since I don't usually hang out with the 2 of you," Uraraka said. Kirishima was about to respond when they heard someone speak. "Hey guys, did you see Momo?" Jiro stood at the entrance. Did she hear something? They thought. Maybe in her room? Denki replied, as Uraraka and Kirishima were still processing the situation. "Oh right, thanks. By the way, I know about the situation between Aizawa-sensei's problem children and don't worry. I won't tell anyone. Not even Momo. I swear," Jiro said before leaving. "I shouldn't be surprised, right? With her quirk, it's not that hard to hear some gossip," Uraraka stated, amused. "Yeah. So, about the plan?" Kaminari looked at the 2, waiting for an answer. "Come on," Uraraka told them, and they left the kitchen. Upon reaching the common room, Izuku found Ida, Todoroki, Tokoyami, and Sato engaged in cheerful conversation. Izuku was practically bouncing with excitement. Uraraka approached them, mentioning that she needed to help Denki with something, and the others nodded in acknowledgement. Izuku smiled and waved goodbye to Uraraka, but in the back of his mind, he couldn't help but wonder. Does Uraraka hang out with those 2 more often? I keep seeing them talking. Maybe they just started spending time together, which is good. She wouldn't tell them about my situation with Kaken or my feelings for him, right? Right. He nodded to himself, deciding he might be overthinking things. Perhaps he really needed some rest. He bid farewell to his friends, expressing his tiredness and the need to sleep. That night, Izuku slept soundly while Katsuki lay awake, his mind racing. The next day, Izuku was filled with excitement. He was going to have dinner with Kaken and his parents later, and he was particularly looking forward to seeing Aunt Mitsuki. She was fun to be around and bore a striking resemblance to Kaken, both in looks and personality. Izuku couldn't help but smile. At 7:30 in the morning, he arrived in the common room to find Mina and Kirishima preparing to leave the dorm to visit their families. Uraraka, Todoroki, and Ida were also heading out but promised to return for dinner. Meanwhile, he and Kaken planned to go out around 5 p.m. For now, Izuku thought about finishing the activity with Kaken and maybe training later, or perhaps just hanging out like they had been doing for the past few days. As he entered the kitchen, Izuku noticed Katsuki staring at the wall, seemingly lost in thought. "Kaken, what's wrong?" Izuku asked, causing Katsuki to snap back to reality. "Damn it, Deku. It's your fault I couldn't sleep last night. Every time I close my eyes, I see your adorable face." Katsuki wanted to shout this out but held back, still not ready to confess his feelings. He had spent the night wrestling with his thoughts about it, which was why he hadn't slept well. "I'm fine, Vedette. Just didn't get enough sleep," he replied in a bored tone. Izuku looked at him with concern. Why does he always look at me like that? Why does he make me fall for him more every day? Do I really love him this much? It hurts because I want to kiss him, hug him, and tell him everything, but I can't. "Are you sure you're okay?" Izuku asked again. "Yeah. I'm fine, so please be quiet," Katsuki said, a hint of annoyance creeping into his voice. He didn't understand why he felt irritated all of a sudden. Was it because he feared Deku might not feel the same way? Perhaps. "Yeah. I just wanted to ask if you want to finish the activity today before we go home for dinner. That way we can have a free day tomorrow," Izuku stammered, flinching at Katsuki's irritated tone. He worried that Kaken might revert to his old self, the one who didn't want anything to do with. Katsuki noticed Izuku's fear and silently reprimanded himself for scaring him. "Good job, Katsuki. Now you've really messed up. You want to do the activity now? Fine by me," he said in a calmer tone, offering Izuku a small smile to reassure him. Izuku was taken aback but quickly composed himself, returning Katsuki's smile. "I'll meet you in your room," he said before heading back to grab his notebook and supplies for the activity. After 10 minutes, he was on his way to Kaken's room when he spotted him standing outside, seemingly lost in thought and mumbling something Izuku couldn't quite catch. "Demon nerd," was the only phrase he could make out. Nerd? Is he thinking about me? Or is he upset with me? Izuku wondered, muttering to himself, which snapped Katsuki out of his thoughts. "Deku, stop that," Katsuki said, grabbing Izuku's wrist and pulling him inside his room after opening the door. They began working on the activity and finished by 9:30 in the morning. As they headed to the common room, they found Jiro chatting with Momo. Katsuki wasn't close to the two girls, so he ignored them, but Izuku greeted them warmly. He then struck up a conversation with Jiro about music, which made her light up, thrilled to find someone who shared her taste. The discussion soon shifted to different brands of tea, delighting Momo. Katsuki wondered how Izuku knew about all those expensive branded teas, but he didn't ask. He knew Izuku had his ways, likely learned from Momo. Izuku was friends with almost everyone he met, except for those who were too prideful, like himself. Katsuki leaned against the wall, gazing fondly at Izuku. His eyes sparkled, and his smile was so bright it almost blinded Katsuki, causing Momo to squint for a moment. Meanwhile, Jiro was observing both Izuku and Bakugo. She squinted slightly, acknowledging the brilliance of Izuku's smile. When she glanced at Bakugo, she was taken aback by the emotions reflected in his eyes. Is this what Todoroki was mumbling about? She wondered. She had overheard Todoroki talking about something, intending to ignore it since it was likely just one of his ridiculous theories. However, hearing Midoriya and Bakugo in the same sentence piqued her interest. The only words she caught were, "Bakugo is looking at him with those eyes. I am certain those emotions are different from what I have seen before." Confused, she pondered what he meant. But now she thought she understood. Bakugo Katsuki is in love with Midoriya Izuku. That was the conclusion she reached. "Oh girl, you better wear that crown because you are absolutely right." Momo, however, was too focused on the conversation to notice what Jiro saw. She was simply staring at Izuku's adorable face. No, Momo didn't have romantic feelings for him. He was like a brother to her, and he was just so cute. Back to Katsuki, he snapped out of his thoughts and decided to prepare something for lunch. He texted Izuku to meet him in his room and received an enthusiastic response. After lunch, Izuku returned to his room and began writing in his notebooks. He had stumbled upon some new insights regarding Uraraka's quirk and was jotting down recommendations for better control. Then he received a message from Kaken. "Kaken collision, make sure you're ready by 4, we will get there early." Deku Greenheart, "Okay, Kaken's smiling face was smiling as Izuku leaned back in his chair and stretched before putting his notebook back on the shelf and messaging his best friend. Isa Greenheart, hey, I have some feedback on your new moves and your quirk. I'll give you the notebook when you get back. Float me the moon noon. Thank you so much, Dekuen. I'll be back tomorrow afternoon. Have fun with your dinner with Bakugo. Izuku's face turned bright red. It's not a date. Kaken and he were definitely not dating. Isa Greenheart, it's not a date. We're just having dinner with his parents. Float me to the moon noon. So you skipped the confession stage and went straight to meet the parents? Isa Greenheart, I already know his parents. Float me to the moon new moon. Okay. I'm just teasing you. But seriously, don't forget to be safe. Now Izuku's face was as red as Kiri's hair, and he felt a wave of panic. Uraraka's jokes had definitely gotten to him. How can I talk to Kaken now? I'll end up thinking about what Uraraka said. He tried to calm himself. He needed to keep his composure or Kaken would notice. He just hoped he wouldn't. At exactly 3:30, Izuku was ready, sitting in the common room, waiting for Kaken to arrive so they could leave together. As he sat there, Tokoyami entered, and Dark Shadow began playfully hugging Izuku and sharing jokes he had learned from Kaminari. Izuku laughed, while Tokoyami sighed, wondering why Midoriya was dressed up as if he were going somewhere special. Are you going out, Midoriya? Tokoyami asked. I'm going home. Izuku flashed his bright smile, causing Tokoyami and Dark Shadow to close their eyes momentarily, overwhelmed by the brightness of Izuku's spirit. They didn't mind, though, they actually enjoyed it. Then why are you still here? You should be going now, Tokoyami urged. Well, Izuku started, but he was interrupted when Bakugo called for him. Come on, Deku. Bakugo said, heading straight for the door, with Izuku following closely behind. He made sure to say goodbye to Tokoyami and Dark Shadow first. Tokoyami watched them with wide eyes. What had he just witnessed? What on earth was that? Revelry in the dark, Tokoyami and Dark Shadow exclaimed in unison. After a long journey, Izuku and Katsuki arrived at Katsuki's house, where Izuku's mom, Inko, was already helping Mitsuki prepare dinner. As they entered, chaos ensued. Izuku! Mitsuki exclaimed, tackling him into a tight hug. This annoyed the fiery Katsuki, who couldn't understand why his mother could casually hug Izuku while he couldn't even hold his hand. Wow. You're a big boy now. But you're still the same Izuku. Mitsuki began pinching Izuku's cheeks. Stop squeezing him, old hag. Katsuki shouted, fuming at the sight. Shut up, Brett. Izuku, your mother is in the kitchen. Say hello to her, Mitsuki instructed, and Izuku nodded, heading straight for the kitchen. Jealous brat? Mitsuki teased, smirking at her son, clearly enjoying his annoyance. I'm not. Katsuki insisted, trying to convince himself. Well, if you just confessed, maybe you could hug him too. Or maybe even kiss him, Mitsuki said, marching back to the kitchen, having noticed the blush creeping onto her son's face. She relished the moment. Katsuki, left speechless, pondered, Kiss. Kiss. I can kiss Deku. Can I really kiss him if I confess? He asked himself, muttering the same thoughts as Izuku, unable to control his mind. He was pulled from his thoughts by a tap on his shoulder. It was Izuku. Kaken, you're muttering just like me. Maybe I rubbed off on you. Anyway, your mother said dinner is ready. We can start eating now. He took Katsuki's hand and led him to the dining area. The dinner was enjoyable. Aside from the playful bickering between Katsuki and Mitsuki, everything was fine. The Bakugos teased their son about his feelings for Izuku, and even Katsuki's father seemed to be in on it. Inko was laughing, while their oblivious friend was left confused by the teasing. I feel for you, Katsuki-kun. My boy can be so dense sometimes, Inko thought to herself, while Mitsuki laughed at her son's flustered expression. Overall, it was a great evening. After dinner, Mitsuki invited them to stay the night and offered Inko the guest room while Izuku was asked to sleep in Katsuki's room, creating an awkward situation for both. I'm going to sleep in Kaken's room, Izuku thought, feeling a bit excited. DMN that old hag. How can I sleep knowing Deku is beside me? Katsuki thought, struggling with the closeness. They ended up sharing a bed, which made it hard for Katsuki to find rest. Another reason for his restlessness was his mother's parting words before bed. "Remember to be careful and keep it down, okay?" she whispered, leaving Katsuki blushing furiously. As they began to drift off to sleep, they found comfort in each other's embrace. The next morning was awkward for Katsuki. He woke up to find himself cuddling Izuku, holding him tightly as if he were afraid to let go. Meanwhile, Izuku slept soundly, completely unaware. "Cute," Katsuki whispered, not wanting to wake him. He felt glad about the situation, but knew it would be awkward if they stayed like this for too long. He attempted to get up, but Izuku's grip was surprisingly strong, making it a challenge to free himself. After a few minutes, he finally managed to slip away, only for Izuku to whine in protest at the sudden absence. Katsuki looked at the sleeping boy with amusement, wishing he could wake up to that face every day. But it was too early for that. He needed to prepare himself for the possibility of confessing his feelings. Meanwhile, in Uraraka's room, she was discussing plans with Kaminari and Kirishima. "So, what's the plan?" she asked. The boys exchanged glances, then smiled awkwardly. "You know, we've been watching Bakugo and noticed something," Kaminari said. "What is it?" Uraraka prompted. "We noticed he gets jealous whenever you're too close to Midoriya, especially when you're with Todoroki. His jealousy towards you and Todoroki is different. He tries to keep calm, but his face says otherwise," Kirishima explained. Realization dawned on Uraraka. "You want me to make Bakugo jealous? To stay close to Deku so he might confess?" she asked for confirmation. The boys nodded, and Uraraka smiled. "I'm on board with this plan, but I think it would work better with Todoroki involved," she stated. "But how do we get Todoroki to help?" Kirishima inquired. "Let's just tell him. I know he has his theories about Bakugo's feelings. He probably has a whole section in his notes about it," Uraraka said, dragging the boys to Todoroki's room. To their surprise, Todoroki indeed had a page dedicated to the two in denial about their feelings for each other. "I can't believe you actually have a page for them," Kaminari said, grinning. "Well, Bakugo is being pretty obvious. He glares at me whenever I stand too close to Midoriya. Midoriya feels the same way, they just hide their emotions," Todoroki remarked. "So, what do you think about making Bakugo so jealous that he might confess?" Uraraka asked. "I'm in," Todoroki agreed without hesitation. "We are Emo's skull. Good evening. Todoroki, what brings you here?" "Guys, I need to ask you something." "Wait for a moment, Jiro. Let's ask Todoroki first." "But, alright, this is about Bakugo and Midoriya." "I knew it. There's something going on between those two. What about them? Are they trying to kill each other?" "Oh, Shinzo. Not killing. They actually have feelings for each other, and we are planning to make Bakugo confess." "By what?" "I'm not surprised they like each other. Come on, you can feel the tension." "Definitely. So, what's the plan? How can we make him jealous?" "Yeah, is there even something or someone he can get jealous about?" "It's me and Uraraka. The first candidates. Now I just need Shinso." "I mean, because you've been close to Midoriya as well. We need help." "But this is the least I can do for Midoriya." "But how?" "Just stay close. Closer than necessary. You might as well try putting your arm on his shoulder. To us, this is a friendly act, but to Bakugo, this is war." "But I can definitely do that. Midoriya won't even mind." "Of course he won't. Dark Shadow says that he wants this plan to succeed. So I am supporting you all. Ask me if there's anything I can do to help. I'm going to add you to our group chat later." Thumbs up. "Jiro, you said you wanted to say something, right?" "Oh, it's actually about Midoriya and Bakugo as well." "So you know?" "Just a hunch. You should see Bakugo's eyes whenever he looks at Midoriya." "I've seen it. I couldn't believe it the first time. But now I'm curious." "At us now." Operation Bakudeku. "Hello, everyone. But I never knew Uraraka could say things like that." "Well, Jiro, I can." Winking face with tongue. "Now I don't want to believe it. So what's the plan now?" "I'm feeling excited about this. This smells like chaos." "Stop it, Shinso. Though I can feel it. Chaos." "Uraraka, you're up for this first plan. Leave it to me." What if this doesn't work? Don't jinx it, bro. Sorry. No worries. If this doesn't work, then we've got plans A to Z or 1 to we can't just give up. Definitely. I want to see Bakugo's jealous face. Can't wait for my turn. So here is the plan. Back to the present, with Kaken and Deku. Izuku actually woke up after 10 minutes, and they had a fun breakfast with Mitsuki and Katsuki playfully arguing. The others were just laughing, but Izuku was confused. Aunt Mitsuki kept teasing Kaken about something he couldn't understand, but he just let it go. They stayed for an hour before heading back to the dorms. Today is Sunday, so they are going to hang out for the whole day. They had already finished their activities, so there was nothing to worry about. Upon returning to the dorm, the two decided to watch a movie in Katsuki's room. Izuku stayed there until 8:30 before heading back to his dorm. Little did they know, their friends were already cooking up a plan to make them confess to each other. Everything is set. They are just waiting for the two to arrive. The plan is for Uraraka to flirt with Izuku the whole time to ensure that Bakugo will see it. And as much as possible, it needs to be believable, which is not a problem for Uraraka at all. Uraraka Achiko actually had a crush on her green-haired best friend when they were in their first year. They even tried to show their feelings for each other, but for Izuku, everything was platonic. Uraraka gave up when they reached their second year. She promised herself that if she couldn't be the reason for his happiness, she would make sure that whoever he loves will definitely be worth it. She can't take chances. Izuku is just too pure for this world, and he deserves so much happiness. That's why she will do this. She knows that her friend will definitely notice because he's not oblivious. But she knows what to say. Minutes later, the pair arrived, signaling Uraraka to begin her plan. "Deku-kin," she called out in her high-pitched voice, knowing how much Bakugo disliked it. She wore a sweet smile on the outside, but inside, she was smirking. "Now, Bakugo, let me see your jealous face," she thought, and her wish was granted as she noticed the blonde's brows furrow and his glare directed at her. "Oh hi, Uraraka-san." Izuku greeted her, completely oblivious to the tension. Uraraka sighed internally. Bakugo really needed to confess his feelings already. But no worries, they still had plans B through Z. She suddenly linked her arm with Izuku's, beaming brightly. To an outsider, they might appear to be a couple, but they were not. "So, how's your day?" she asked in a playful tone, raising Izuku's eyebrows in surprise. Did he notice? She wondered, feeling a bit nervous but hiding it well. He can't catch on yet. I know he's smart, but this is my mission. I need to make Bakugo so jealous that he might confess. She held a determined expression, which Izuku noticed, and he could tell what Uraraka was trying to do. "Achiko, this won't work. I swear," he said, looking at his best friend. Uraraka was slightly taken aback. "Okay, he's definitely smart. But my job isn't done yet." She tightened her grip on Izuku's arm, almost hugging him. "Just let me do it, bestie. It might work," she whispered in his ear with a determined smile, then winked at him. The gesture left Izuku flustered, his cheeks turning pink. Little did he know, an irate Bakugo was watching them, ready to explode from jealousy. Todoroki, standing off to the side, sighed. It seemed the plan still wasn't working. He shoved his hands into his pockets and pulled out his phone, sighing again. Operation Bakudeku. Not so daddy issues. Okay, Uraraka, proceed to plan B. Urabichism, roger that. Wada sleep and eat coffee, plan A didn't work. Not so daddy issues. Well, he looks very angry, like he's about to explode, but I don't think it will make him confess. Pikakami, so what's plan B? Uraraka is still in charge. Not so daddy issues, you'll see. Curiously, I just saw Bakubro looking so mad right now. He didn't even notice me when I walked right past him. Then I'm scared. Good luck, Uraraka. Just float to the sky if anything happens, seeing no evil monkey. Urabichism, not scared, unamused face, smirking face. Lunchtime arrived and plan B was set to commence. Everyone was in the common room, except for Bakugo and Midoriya, who were still in Bakugo's room. Midoriya was trying to calm Bakugo, who was in a foul mood. This confused Izuku since Bakugo had seemed fine before they returned to the dorm. He suspected someone had pulled a prank on Bakugo while he was talking to Uraraka. How oblivious could he be? Kaken? Did someone pull a prank on you again? He asked softly, causing Bakugo's anger to dissipate slightly, though he still looked upset, hoping Izuku would comfort him. Don't mind me, nerd, Bakugo replied curtly, knowing that this would not deter Izuku. Really? You look so mad though. Well, you always look mad, but this is different. We were fine before we came back to the dorm, so why the sudden change? Izuku pressed. Bakugo sighed. He knew he wouldn't hear the end of it if he didn't give Deku a decent answer. I just got tired, you know? I get grumpier when I'm tired. You're supposed to know that, nerd. He rolled his eyes. This seemed to satisfy Izuku, who was about to respond when they heard a knock on the door. Katsuki silently cursed. He was ready to explode at whoever dared to interrupt his time with Deku. He was already furious about the way that girl had flirted with Deku in front of him. And why was Deku so flustered? Did he actually like that girl? Katsuki fumed silently until he heard Deku speak. We'll be down in a minute. Thanks, Kirishima, he called, turning to Bakugo with a bright smile. So it's that spiky-haired guy? How dare he interrupt my time with Deku? He's lucky that this nerd's smile melts my anger. He's saved for now, Katsuki thought. Deku then approached him, informing him that Kirishima said lunch was ready. When they headed downstairs, everyone was already gathered and preparing for lunch. As for Plan B, Uraraka just needed to flirt with Izuku again during lunch, in front of their classmates, and hopefully, someone would tease them. If not, the members of this operation would step in to lead the way. Uraraka spotted Izuku and confidently marched toward him, linking her arm with his. Izuku sighed quietly. In his mind, he thought Uraraka was trying to make Bakugo jealous, but he doubted it would work. Or so he thought. Deku, I've prepared katsudon for you. You know, your favorite, she announced loudly enough for the whole class to hear, earning a reaction from Mina and Hagakure. But you two are so sweet today, sweeter than usual. If there's something going on between you, you can tell us, Mina said enthusiastically. Uraraka giggled and clung to Izuku again, causing him to blush deeply. He felt a bit embarrassed and wished his best friend would just give up. Bakugo's reaction was less than pleasant. He suddenly lost his appetite, turning away and marching back to his dorm, clearly frustrated. He was overwhelmed with jealousy and struggled to control his feelings. Noticing Bakugo leave, Todoroki messaged Uraraka, suggesting she drop the act since Bakugo wasn't there to witness it. When Uraraka released Izuku, Mina and the other girls began questioning her, to which she replied, "We're friends. Everything is totally platonic." Mina and Hagakure exchanged skeptical glances, but Uraraka believed that if her plan to bring Bakugo and Deku closer succeeded, she would be the happiest. Izuku then realized Katsuki was missing and asked Denki, who informed him that Katsuki looked really mad and had likely gone back to his room. Worried, Izuku decided to bring their food to Katsuki. Standing in front of Katsuki's door, he knocked softly. Moments later, the door opened to reveal Katsuki frowning, ready to yell, but he stopped himself when he saw it was Izuku. "What do you want, nerd?" Katsuki asked, his voice tired. "I brought our lunch. I don't know why you're in here, but I want to have lunch with you, so here I am," Izuku said, offering a gentle smile that seemed to melt Katsuki's anger away. This surprised Katsuki. He was taken aback by how easily Izuku could lift his spirits with just a smile. I don't want to eat lunch downstairs right now," Katsuki muttered, struggling to find a better excuse. "Is it okay for me to stay?" Izuku asked, sensing that Katsuki might want some time alone. "Stay," was all Katsuki managed to say. He wanted to express that he wanted to spend time with Izuku, but his pride held him back. "Okay, let's eat," Izuku exclaimed cheerfully, making Katsuki smile. He couldn't help but feel smitten. They enjoyed their meal, with Izuku doing most of the talking while Katsuki nodded or chimed in occasionally. Katsuki took his time admiring the person in front of him. "Kaken? I'm worried about you. You're not in the best mood today. We were fine before we got back, and then you suddenly became grumpy. Did someone from the Baku squad prank you again? Should I talk to them?" Izuku asked, concern evident in his voice. He was genuinely worried about Katsuki. "No one pranked me," Katsuki replied, feeling a twinge of guilt for making Izuku worry. "Well, we could watch a movie if you want. I can grab something from my room, and we can watch it afterward if that's okay with you," Izuku suggested with a smile. Katsuki found himself lost in those bright emerald eyes, which sparkled without hurting his own ruby-colored ones. Izuku looked so beautiful, and Katsuki was captivated, though he feared he was being too obvious while Izuku remained oblivious. "Kaken? Are you okay? Is there something on my face?" Izuku asked, feeling a blush creep onto his cheeks, which made Katsuki's heart leap with happiness at the sight. "And nothing. Just get what you need and come back for the movie," Katsuki replied, and Izuku continued eating. After finishing their lunch, Izuku went to return the dishes to the kitchen before heading back to his room. He had something special for Katsuki. Feeling shy about showing it, he hoped Katsuki would like his drawing a sketch of Katsuki's smiling face, the one he displayed after Izuku praised him countless times. "Kaken looks even more dazzling when he smiles. I wish I could see him smile more often." Izuku thought for a moment, then held the drawing close to his chest, giving it a gentle hug. "I can't believe how much I adore Kaken," he mused, a smile spreading across his lips. Minutes later, Izuku returned to Katsuki's room, sketchpad in hand. Katsuki's curiosity was piqued. Why had Izuku come back with that? "What's in the sketchpad?" Katsuki couldn't help but ask. "Oh, I like sketching and Izuku stammered. "Show me," Katsuki interrupted. "Huh. I said show me," Katsuki insisted. "Okay." Izuku handed the sketchpad to Katsuki, who looked at the page featuring his sketched face. "Wow, this is really nice," he said, his voice low but audible enough for Izuku to hear. A wave of happiness washed over Izuku. Kaken liked his drawing. "You like it?" he asked hopefully. "Nope. I love it," Katsuki replied, a smile breaking across his face. Izuku's heart raced. I'm falling even harder. "This is dangerous," he thought, returning Katsuki's smile. Katsuki couldn't help but admire the green net in front of him. "Kaken," Izuku suddenly called out. That voice felt both cute and dangerous to Katsuki, making his heart soar. "What a peaceful feeling," he thought. "Can I have this?" Katsuki managed to ask. "The drawing?" Izuku responded. Katsuki thought, "No. Can I have you?" He nodded, confirming Izuku's question. "Oh, of course. I was actually planning to give it to you," Izuku said with a smile. "Then it's mine now," Katsuki declared, beaming. The two spent the night watching movies until it was time for Izuku to return to his dorm. They both fell asleep with smiles on their faces. Days passed, and now they found themselves at the beach, seeking a bit of relaxation. Midnight, Aizawa, and Present Mike were supervising them. "Aizawa, I've noticed Bakugo keeps glancing at Midoriya, and he's being really sweet to him," Midnight remarked. "Well, according to Uraraka, they're friends again," Aizawa replied in a bored tone, though he felt a sense of happiness inside. His two problem children were getting along. "But the way he looks at the green bean isn't how I look at my friends," Present Mike pointed out. "Yeah, I noticed it too. He practically has hearts in his eyes whenever the cinnamon roll shows his brightest smile," Midnight chimed in. "Maybe they're more than friends or just too oblivious to realize they actually like each other," Aizawa mused, still in his monotone. "It's definitely the oblivious part. They seem unaware of each other's feelings but are aware of their own. When do you think one of them will confess?" Present Mike asked, looking around. "We're working on it." The two teachers nearly jumped out of their seats when they heard a monotone voice behind them. "Todoroki, don't sneak up like that," Aizawa scolded. "Oh, sorry about that. Your topic just caught my interest," Todoroki replied, his expression unchanged. "What a straight face. I wonder if he is straight," both Midnight and Present Mike thought. "If you're wondering about my orientation, I swing both ways," he said flatly. "Mind reader," both teachers thought. "I'm not a mind reader," he replied, still in his flat tone. "Todoroki." The teachers turned to see Uraraka running toward them. When she reached them, she smiled brightly. "Hi, Midnight Sensei, Present Mike-sensei and Aizawa-sensei, she greeted. Oh, hello dear. Hello, little listener. What do you need? Why so cold, Sho? Shut up, Hizashi. You too, Nimuri. Aizawa-sensei looks so stressed, Uraraka pointed out, giggling. Aizawa merely grunted. I don't need anything in particular. Just looking for this ice prince over. Here because we need to discuss something, she said. Oh, where are the others then? Todoroki asked. On the other side, she replied sarcastically. You mean the afterlife or the bad side of society? Todoroki asked, prompting Uraraka to facepalm. The three teachers were at a loss with Todoroki. Just follow me. Don't worry, I won't lead you to your grave, so just follow me, daddy issues. Bye, senseis. She then dragged Todoroki away. The three teachers sighed, watching them go. I wonder what they are planning, Midnight said with a sigh. I'm sure things won't go according to their plan, Aizawa replied, also sighing, feeling exasperated with his problem children. Meanwhile, the Bakudeku operation team was observing from a distance. Todoroki stood at the center while the others sat on the sand, watching Bakugo interact with Izuku. It was surprising to see Bakugo being so gentle. His tone and demeanor were so different that anyone outside the group would be shocked. Seeing Bakubro like this is kind of unsettling, Kaminari remarked, linking his arm around his boyfriend's neck. It's not unsettling, we're just not used to it. Well, I can't find the right word, Kirishima added, hugging Kaminari at the waist. They really do act like a couple. I wonder what Ishido would say if she were here, Tokoyami mused, absent-mindedly playing with the sand at his feet. Is the plan still in action? Are we still waiting for Uraraka's turn? Shinso asked. Yes, it's still Uraraka's turn, but I don't think it's working, Todoroki replied with a sigh. Maybe he doesn't feel threatened by my presence, Uraraka said with a laugh. Maybe he thinks Midoriya isn't actually interested in you, Jiro suggested, glancing at the two. They're so sweet together. It's like they're falling for each other quickly, Jiro added. If that's the case, Deku might assume Kaken doesn't feel the same way and won't confess. Maybe I should give him a little nudge. Uraraka said, a mischievous smile on her face. And how do you plan to do that? Todoroki asked. Well, convincing Deku isn't easy, but maybe you could help, Uraraka replied. If you want my dad's credit card, I'll give it to you later. I can't just barge in and tell Midoriya to confess when he doesn't even know I know about his feelings for Bakugo, Todoroki said, looking at Uraraka. Don't worry about that. You can frame it as one of your theories. This time, it might actually be right, Shinso said. Are you saying my theories were wrong? Todoroki questioned. Well, they have been incorrect at times, Jiro pointed out. Yeah, Jiro's right. Some of your conclusions have missed the mark, Uraraka agreed, nodding. Todoroki rolled his eyes at them and continued watching the not-so-secret lovers being affectionate with each other. Katsuki sat on the sand with Izuku beside him, happily chatting and teasing one another. What do you want for lunch, nerd? Katsuki asked, glancing at Izuku, who smiled back. Katsuki couldn't help but smile slightly as he playfully pinched Izuku's cheek. Why did I even ask you? He said, ruffling Izuku's soft green curls. Kaken, don't do that. My hair will get even messier. Izuku protested. Well, it's already messy, so let's make it even messier, Katsuki grinned, continuing his playful antics. Izuku felt a bit confused. Although he and Katsuki were friends now despite wanting more, he was still adjusting to Katsuki's gentler side. His heart raced as he found himself falling deeper for him. Kaken, Izuku said, leaning his head on Katsuki's shoulder. They watched their classmates enjoying their free time in the water, oblivious to the changes in Izuku and Katsuki's relationship, except for the Bakudeku team. Katsuki leaned his head against Izuku's, smiling as he felt the softness of Izuku's hair against his cheek. Relaxing is actually nice, Izuku said, returning the smile. Yeah, we train so hard to be the best heroes that we forget to take a break. This is nice, Katsuki agreed, intertwining his fingers with Izuku's and tracing the battle scars on his hand. Izuku felt proud of those scars. They were reminders of his resilience and achievements. Spending time with Katsuki today felt surreal, and he hoped it would last. So, lunch? It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon, and for some reason, there were no classes. The heavy rain kept the rest of the class in their rooms. Izuku, however, decided to brave the weather to buy some groceries and perhaps some comics. He hadn't expected the rain to pour so suddenly, forcing him to dash back to the dorms. Once he arrived, he took a quick shower and fell asleep almost immediately after lying down. He woke up feeling exhausted. As he opened his eyes, a sharp pain shot through his head, making him wince. The room around him spun, and he felt a wave of nausea. He attempted to sit up, but his body refused to cooperate. Soreness enveloped him, and he realized he was cold despite his elevated body temperature. He had a fever. With a sigh, he remembered it was Tuesday, the day he was supposed to hang out with Kaken, but he couldn't muster the energy. He wrapped himself in a blanket and drifted back to sleep. 3 hours had passed without any sign of Deku. Katsuki, though trying to hide it, felt a surge of agitation. He was worried. Deku was supposed to be in his room by now, and they should have been hanging out. But he was nowhere to be found. With a frustrated sigh, Katsuki decided to check on him. He made his way to Deku's dorm, careful not to attract the attention of his classmates. After knocking 5 times with no response, he was about to leave when the door slowly opened, revealing Izuku peeking out. He looked utterly exhausted. "What happened to you, nerd?" Katsuki asked, gently pushing past him into the room. Once inside, he closed the door and turned to face Izuku again. Izuku shivered slightly at the chill in the air. Katsuki quickly guided him to his bed, realizing that Izuku had a fever. His skin felt hot, and his face was flushed. He helped Izuku lie down and checked his temperature. Katsuki went to the bathroom, grabbed a basin, filled it with water, and took a towel. Returning to Izuku, he placed the damp towel on his forehead and urged him to drink plenty of water. Knowing Izuku wouldn't have much of an appetite, he prepared some soup for him. After feeding Izuku, Katsuki changed his clothes and made sure he took the medicine recommended by Recovery Girl. He then let him rest. Later that evening, Izuku's fever had subsided, but he wasn't completely well, so Katsuki kept a close watch over him. He was so concerned that he forgot to eat dinner right away, and now he was finally finishing his meal. After cleaning up in the kitchen, he headed back to Izuku's dorm room and crossed paths with Todoroki and Uraraka. They inquired about Izuku, and Katsuki assured them he would be fine since he was taking care of him. He then left them behind. The two exchanged knowing glances. "Deku-kun is in good hands," Uraraka said, pretending to wipe away tears, though they were more of relief than sadness. She was grateful someone was there for her best friend. Morning arrived, and Izuku's fever had finally disappeared. Katsuki felt a wave of relief wash over him. "Kaken?" Katsuki lifted his head, realizing he had dozed off beside Izuku. He was sitting upright, his head resting on the edge of Izuku's bed. Looking at the younger boy, he noticed he seemed much better, albeit still a bit tired. "How are you, nerd?" he asked softly, a tone that was unusual for his typically aggressive demeanor. "I'm fine now. A little tired, but I don't feel uncomfortable anymore." "Thank you for taking care of me, Kaken," Izuku replied with a grateful smile. "Don't get sick again, nerd," Katsuki said, returning the smile. Izuku nodded, his expression brightening further. It had been 3 weeks since they initiated their plan, and so far, there had been no signs of a confession. Todoroki, Uraraka, Kirishima, and Kaminari were gathered in Uraraka's room, engaged in a staring contest. They were unsure if Uraraka's previous efforts had any real impact. While it had made Katsuki jealous, he still hadn't confessed to Izuku. After 10 minutes, Todoroki let out a frustrated sigh. Despite their numerous plans, they had no certainty of success. The first plan had failed, but at least Bakugo had shown signs of jealousy. Perhaps it was time for Shinso to step in? "Uraraka, contact Shinso. It's time for him to implement the second plan. He needs to make that Pomeranian jealous," he said with a serious expression. Uraraka eagerly agreed and quickly texted Shinso, receiving a prompt reply. "He said he's ready whenever we are," Uraraka informed Todoroki. Todoroki nodded, hopeful that this would work. If it didn't, they still had a backup plan. Tell him to start right away as soon as he sees Midoriya, he instructed. It was Saturday morning, and Izuku was in Katsuki's room, as usual. They were both working on their assignments, having studied together for weeks and grown closer in the process. Their relationship had evolved beyond mere friendship, though no one openly acknowledged it. It was an unspoken understanding. Kaken? Izuku looked at Katsuki, who returned his gaze with a curious expression. Are you free this Sunday? Guess so. Why? Katsuki asked. Would you like to go to the mall with me? There are some things I need to buy. But if you're busy, that's okay, Izuku replied, glancing at him hopefully. Of course I'll go with you, nerd, Katsuki said, a smile breaking across his face. Izuku couldn't help but smile back. Katsuki's smile was so beautiful, it was a shame he didn't see it more often. But lately, Katsuki had been smiling at him more frequently. Ever since they had reconciled, Katsuki had become gentler, laughing and smiling more. Those moments were special, shared only between the two of them, and it made Izuku feel cherished. He felt a flutter of nerves, knowing he was deeply in love with Katsuki, and there was no turning back. Thanks, Kaken. You're the best, Izuku exclaimed, his bright smile making Katsuki's heart race. This isn't good. Not good at all. I'm so in love with him already, Katsuki thought. Maybe you should just confess, his mind urged him, but he couldn't muster the courage. It was amusing how brave he was when facing villains, yet he struggled to confess his feelings to Izuku. Fighting villains and confessing love were worlds apart. Of course I am, nerd, he said, regaining his composure and smiling at Izuku. After 2 hours of hanging out in Katsuki's room, they decided to head down to the common room and into the kitchen. Katsuki went to prepare katsudon for Izuku, while Izuku chatted with his friends who were also in the common area. Hey, Deku, he heard Uraraka call, turning to see her waving. Ida nodded in greeting, Todoroki smiled, and Shinso shook his head in amusement. This is it, the Bakudeku operation team thought. It was time for their next plan to unfold. They hoped that after this, Katsuki would finally confess. The slow burn was becoming unbearable. Once Izuku settled between Shinso and Todoroki, Shinso draped an arm around him, almost hugging him. He started chatting about random topics, and soon everyone joined in, laughter filling the room. Minutes later, Kaminari and Kirishima entered the common room, eager to join the fun. They noticed how Shinso was executing his part of the plan and felt a twinge of anxiety. Although Izuku seemed unfazed by Shinso's closeness, they knew someone would likely be upset by the scene. They just hoped Katsuki would gather the courage to confess. After nearly 30 minutes, Katsuki emerged from the kitchen, searching for Izuku because the food was ready. He spotted Izuku sitting between Todoroki and Shinso, and a wave of jealousy surged through him. Among Izuku's friends, he felt most threatened by Todoroki and Shinso. He also felt a pang of jealousy whenever Uraraka touched Izuku, but it paled in comparison to his feelings toward those two. Katsuki took a deep breath, trying to maintain his composure. He couldn't lash out like he used to. He didn't want to disappoint Izuku or make him worry again like last time. Yet, his heart ached, and his expression shifted from his usual scowl to one of irritation. His classmates were accustomed to his angry demeanor, but it still made them uneasy. Mina, sensing the tension, quickly retreated up the stairs to avoid the brewing storm, pretending she hadn't seen anything. Whoever made Katsuki angry would surely regret it. Kaminari and Kirishima noticed Bakugo's expression and felt the urge to run upstairs and hide. However, they decided to stay when they saw him trying to compose himself, taking deep breaths to suppress his anger. He stood at the entrance of the kitchen, preparing to call for Izuku when the boy turned around and spotted Katsuki. A smile instantly spread across Izuku's face, and he informed his friends that he needed to approach Katsuki. They nodded in agreement. Katsuki's expression softened upon seeing Izuku's smile, and his anger gradually faded. Everyone in the common room witnessed this change, except for Ida, who stood up and announced that he needed to go to his room. Bakugo is in deep, Shinso remarked, earning nods from everyone present. He's definitely in love with Midoriya, Todoroki added. The problem is that he still hasn't confessed. We were hoping he would react when he saw how close Shinso was to Midoriya, but he just stood there trying to calm himself, Kirishima said. Can you imagine how difficult that must be? Trying to keep his cool so Midoriya won't worry about him. Seriously, Bakugo is amazing, Kaminari exclaimed, and everyone in the room agreed. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, Izuku asked, Kaken, are you okay? You look really upset. Katsuki took a deep breath before responding. I'm not upset. Just a bit irritated. I'm not even sure why, he admitted, scratching the back of his neck. Okay, if you say so. Just talk to me, alright? Izuku encouraged, and Katsuki nodded. He felt a surge of jealousy but fought to keep his emotions in check. He hated seeing the flicker of fear in Izuku's beautiful green eyes whenever they met his red ones. Right now, Izuku seemed to be growing more comfortable around him, and he didn't want to jeopardize that. After finishing their meal, Katsuki and Izuku returned to their respective rooms for an hour. Afterward, Izuku rejoined his friends in the common room. Upon entering, he spotted Shinso, Todoroki, Tsu, Uraraka, Kirishima, Kaminari, Jiro, Momo, and Tokoyami watching a movie. They noticed him and Shinso invited him to sit beside him. Izuku complied, and Uraraka settled next to him, engaging him in quiet conversation. Shinso joined in, and they soon forgot about the movie playing on the screen. Minutes later, the others began chatting as well, creating a lively atmosphere. Midoriya, you seem to be getting close to Bakugo these past few days, Ida suddenly interjected, startling Izuku, who hadn't seen him approach. Why scared me, Ida-kun? Izuku stammered, slightly trembling. Ida apologized, waving his arms awkwardly, causing the others to sweat drop. Well, Kaken and I managed to work things out, and we're friends now, Izuku said, smiling brightly. Such a bright smile, they thought, admiring his happiness. That's good to hear. I won't have to intervene in your arguments all the time. I feel like my lifespan has shortened, Ida replied, shaking his head. Friends? Just friends? Jiro teased, wearing a playful smile. Is there something more than being friends? Izuku asked, genuinely confused. Wow, what an oblivious guy, Jiro remarked, shaking her head. Well, there is more than just friends, Tokoyami added. Oh, you mean best friends? Izuku exclaimed, causing everyone to look at him as if he had 3 heads. They all felt a mix of hopelessness and amusement. Why? Izuku asked, puzzled. Bestie, they mean lovers. More than friends, as in lovers, Todoroki explained, his expression as calm as ever. Oh! Izuku responded, realization dawning on him. Everyone face-bombed collectively. Why would you think of that? Izuku asked, trying to suppress his embarrassment. Well, you two actually look like a good couple. You complement each other well, Kirishima said, giving him a thumbs up. Izuku's face turned crimson. I don't even know if Kaken is attracted to boys, he stammered, his heart racing. He doesn't just like boys, he likes you, they all thought, fully aware that Katsuki had a special affection for Izuku. While Katsuki typically wasn't interested in boys, his feelings for Izuku were undeniable. If Izuku were a girl, Katsuki would still be drawn to him, but that was a thought for another time. We never know. He might be attracted to you, Denki said with a laugh. Why are you flustered, Midoriya? Do you like Bakugo? Todoroki asked. Izuku instantly realized that only Uraraka knew about his feelings for Kaken. What should I say? He wondered. Don't worry, we won't judge you even if you really like him. You're kind of obvious anyway, Tokoyami said bluntly. Izuku's eyes widened. He was obvious? Did that mean Kaken also knew? Bakugo didn't know, bro. We swear, Kiri said as if he could hear Midoriya's thoughts, though in reality, Izuku had mumbled it out loud. Echa? I didn't know I was being obvious. But at least Kaken didn't know, Izuku replied truthfully. Why though? Jiro asked. Why what? Why aren't you confessing? She pressed. We just got our friendship back, and I'm not ready to tell him that, he said. We understand, Todoroki replied. I don't even know if Kaken sees me as someone he could have romantic feelings for, he said sadly. Then why don't we make him jealous? Uraraka suggested. What? We can't do that. Izuku exclaimed, shaking his head. Guys, what if Bakugo doesn't like Midoriya? He could get hurt. Stop giving him false hopes, Ida said, gesturing emphatically. Alright. Ida didn't know. They all face-bombed. Ikuin, we won't know if we don't ask, Denki tried to reason. I know that. I'm just worried about Midoriya. Bakugo always hurts him. I don't want him to get hurt again and again. The pain Bakugo inflicted on Midoriya is 10 times worse than anything else he's experienced. I know because his expression shows it, Ida stated, adjusting his glasses. It made sense. Although Bakugo liked Midoriya, the pain of the past would still linger. Midoriya was just too kind to forgive him all the time. Thank you, Ida. Although Kaken really did hurt me in the past, he is trying his best to make up for it. He hasn't forgiven himself yet. No matter how many times I tell him it's alright, he still thinks I don't deserve what he did, which is true, and he believes he doesn't deserve my forgiveness. But that's not entirely true. Kaken deserves the chance I've given him. He's trying his best, and we were just kids back then. He wasn't guided to the right path because the people in middle school let him do whatever he wanted without reprimanding him, Izuku explained. He really admires him. He's even defending him. Among the people in this building, Midoriya is the only one who knows Bakugo inside and out. He understands everything about him. So manly Midobro, Kiri thought, almost shedding a tear. Well then let's try it. Let's make him jealous, Tokoyami suggested. Yeah. Uraraka agreed with a mischievous grin. Echa? That won't work. Izuku protested again. How do you know? We're just going to try. Denki exclaimed. I don't know. Izuku said, blushing harder. Shinso then put his arm around Izuku's shoulder and whispered something in his ear, making him even more flustered. That's not true, Shinso, he said, and everyone started laughing, though they didn't hear what he said. They were all so caught up in their laughter that they didn't notice Todoroki had silently approached Bakugo, who was watching them. Katsuki had decided to come down to the common room because he wanted to ask Izuku if he could accompany him to his room. But the moment he saw them, jealousy surged in his heart. The insomniac had his arm around Izuku, whispering something in his ear, and Izuku was blushing. What is he telling him? Why is he flustered? He wondered. He was so lost in thought that he didn't notice Todoroki standing beside him. What's wrong with you? Todoroki suddenly asked, startling Katsuki. He was about to shout at him when Todoroki spoke again. You look like you want to explode, Shinso. Why is that? He asked, though he already knew the answer. Huh? It's none of your business. Katsuki snapped. Are you perhaps jealous? Todoroki asked again. Jealous? Why would I be jealous? He retorted, but deep inside he was already panicking. What? You like Midoriya, right? Katsuki's eyes widened. How did he know? Maybe you're wondering how I know? It's simple, you're obvious, Todoroki said before walking away, leaving Katsuki in a state of shock. What the hell? Katsuki exclaimed to himself. Katsuki was in his room, having just decided to message Deku, asking him to come over. He missed Deku, even though they had seen each other not long ago. After sending the message, he sat on his bed, staring at the wall, lost in thought about the moments they had shared over the past few weeks. Minutes later, Izuku arrived. He knocked on Katsuki's door, but there was no response. Curious, he decided to use the key Katsuki had given him for times like this when he wanted to enter the room and Katsuki wasn't around or was asleep. When he opened the door, he found Katsuki sitting on his bed, gazing blankly at the wall. He hadn't noticed Izuku enter, his expression unreadable. Izuku felt a wave of concern wash over him. What's wrong with Katsuki? He's been more distant these past few days, often lost in thought. Is he getting enough sleep? Deciding to approach him, Izuku sat down beside Katsuki, who still didn't seem to notice. Izuku sighed. What's going on with him? He placed a hand on Katsuki's shoulder, causing Katsuki to jump slightly, eyes wide as if ready to react defensively. But he relaxed when he saw it was Izuku. Deku? He asked, still sounding a bit out of it. Izuku looked at him, surprised. Geez, Kaken. What's wrong? Did something happen? You keep spacing out and seem distracted. You even left yourself open a while ago. What if it wasn't me? Is there anything I can do to help? Izuku fired off a barrage of questions, making Katsuki chuckle. Why are you laughing? Are my questions weird? I'm just worried about you. Meanie. Izuku pouted, glaring at Katsuki, which only made him laugh more. You know what, nerd? If you want to look intimidating, don't pout. You don't look scary at all. You actually look cute. Katsuki said, not realizing the compliment slipped out. What was that? It's not just my imagination, right? He really did call me cute, didn't he? Izuku thought, feeling a blush creep onto his cheeks. Katsuki suddenly realized what he had said and felt flustered, though he tried to hide it. Ahem, sorry about that. It's just that I have a lot on my mind. I was thinking about a lot of things, Katsuki said, attempting to ease the awkwardness. Yeah, is that so? Can I help with anything? You seem like you could use some support, Izuku offered with a smile. Katsuki's heart raced, and he was worried Izuku might hear it. Don't worry about me. It's nothing I can't handle. Just stay here, he said softly. Okay, as long as you're fine. Suddenly, Izuku hugged Katsuki, catching him off guard. But he returned the embrace, burying his face in Izuku's soft curls, relishing the moment. You're being clingy, nerd, Katsuki teased, causing Izuku to blush and attempt to pull away, but Katsuki tightened his grip around Izuku's waist. Kaken? Let's stay like this for a while, please, he replied. Okay, but who's clingy now? Izuku teased back. Shut up, dirt. Don't be sassy with me, Katsuki grumbled, which made Izuku giggle. Why are you being so cute today? Katsuki whispered, and because they were so close, Izuku heard him. So it's not just my imagination? He really did call me cute? This is too much for my heart. What is he doing to me? I might faint. My heart is racing. We're even embracing like this as if we're a couple. Izuku thought, panicking internally. Kaken, I think I like being like this with you, Izuku confessed, nearly spilling his feelings. Me too, Izuku. Let's stay like this for a while, okay? Katsuki said, pulling Izuku even closer, and Izuku mirrored the action. Okay, Kaken, he replied, offering a small smile that Katsuki couldn't see. After what happened in Katsuki's room, Izuku returned to his own and buried his face in his pillow, unable to contain his excitement. What is this? Why do I feel something like butterflies in my stomach? What is this feeling? Why do I feel so giddy? Is it because Kaken and I were so close a while ago? Is it because he held me in his arms? Does he feel the same way I do? Izuku couldn't help but smile. He was so happy, even though it was a bit overwhelming for his heart. He was deeply in love with Katsuki and knew there was no turning back. As he drifted off to sleep, he wished that Kaken felt the same. His wish was already granted, as both he and Katsuki hoped for mutual feelings. A week passed with no progress. Uraraka sighed, realizing that Shinso's plan wasn't working as intended. While it had made Katsuki jealous, he still hadn't confessed, and it seemed he had no intention of doing so. They were all gathered in Todoroki's room, just hanging out. They're both hopeless. I don't think even if we execute the third plan, it will make him confess, Shinso remarked. You're right about that, Todoroki agreed. What should we do then? Kaminari asked. Yeah, what should we do? Denki and I tried talking to Bakudeku, but he still didn't budge, Kirishima added. What can we do? Even though it's tough for me, I think we should just let them figure it out. We can't force Bakugo or Midoriya. Their relationship was unstable before and there are fears in their hearts. They aren't ready for this, Jiro stated. Jiro is right. They just repaired their friendship not long ago. They still need to strengthen their bond before moving on to something more, Tokoyami said, with Dark Shadow nodding in agreement. Okay, let's take a break for now, but we will still do our best to support them in our own ways. Midoriya is my friend, and I want him to be happy, Todoroki said in his usual monotone voice. Yeah, we want Bakudeku to be happy too, Kirishima and Denki chimed in. I really wish they would just confess. I want to see it happen. But it can't be helped. Let's see what the future holds, Uraraka said with a smile. Everyone in the room nodded in agreement. Meanwhile, Izuku and Katsuki were in the kitchen. Kaken, I knew you could cook, but I didn't expect you to be this good. Izuku exclaimed. Katsuki grinned and replied, Of course. I am the best. Yeah. Kaken's the best. Izuku agreed, genuinely enjoying Katsuki's cooking. If you like my cooking that much, just say the word and I will cook for you, Katsuki said softly. Izuku looked at him, excitement bubbling inside. It was Katsuki after all. Thank you, Kaken. I'm definitely going to ask you to cook for me more often, Izuku teased. Shut up, that. Finish your food. The old hag wants to see you again. Maybe we could visit her this weekend if you want, Katsuki said, trying to change the subject. Yeah. My mom said the same thing. She wants you to visit her too. It's been a while since you last came over, and she really misses you, Izuku said with a smile. Sure. I miss hanging out at your place anyway. Katsuki started eating as well, but their peaceful dinner was soon interrupted by chaos. Kaminari. Jumping into the bathtub like that is not a good idea. Now how will we explain to Aizawa-sensei that the bathtub is broken because of you? Who told you to jump anyway? Ida exclaimed, waving his hands in frustration. I didn't know that would happen, Kaminari defended himself, while Kirishima sighed in the corner. And Ashido, how many times do I have to tell you that you shouldn't paint the stairs pink? Ida added, looking at Mina as if today was his worst day. It looks good. Ashido replied nonchalantly. After an hour of Ida's lecture, Izuku lost his appetite. He loved the food Kaken had prepared, but the chaos around them made him too stressed to enjoy it. What's wrong, Deku? Katsuki whispered amidst the chaos around them. I think I lost my appetite. Sorry about this, Kaken, Izuku replied, avoiding Katsuki's gaze. Well, we can just reheat it later if you feel like eating again. It's not good to eat if you don't want to. You won't be able to appreciate the food, Katsuki said, offering Izuku a small smile. Their classmates were too caught up in the commotion to notice this exchange. Perhaps Aizawa, napping in the corner, caught a glimpse. Katsuki was beyond frustrated. It was an understatement to say he was just mad. He was furious at the trio causing trouble and even more annoyed at Ida for lecturing them for an hour. Now, Deku had lost his appetite, and Katsuki's carefully prepared meal went unfinished. He glared at the culprits from across the room, where they were all gathered, oblivious to his irritation. They noticed his intense gaze, but while Ida and Mina looked confused, Kaminari was sweating nervously. He knew exactly why Bakugo was glaring at them like he wanted to explode. He hadn't meant to ruin Bakugo's dinner with Midoriya, but things had spiraled out of control. Whatever the case, Bakugo was furious, and Kaminari felt the need to warn Kirishima. As movie night wrapped up, some students returned to their rooms while others lingered in the common area. Katsuki was on his way to his room when he spotted Izuku approaching him. When they stood face to face, Izuku smiled. You need something, nerd? Katsuki asked. Well, I just wanted to say thank you for dinner and good night, Izuku replied before heading to his room, leaving Katsuki standing at his door. My heart is pounding. I really hope he knows what he's doing to me. With that thought, he entered his room. His irritation faded as if it had never existed, and he slept soundly that night. The next morning, Katsuki felt refreshed, a sensation he hadn't experienced in a long time. He sensed that something good was on the horizon, perhaps today or tomorrow. Whatever it was, he was sure Izuku would be involved. He hadn't realized it before, but since he stopped denying his true feelings for Izuku, he felt more at peace whenever the green-haired boy was around. He wasn't irritated or tense, he simply felt happy being by his side, making him laugh and smile with little gestures. Kaken, did something good happen? You look so happy, Izuku exclaimed, drawing the attention of their classmates. Happy? What do you mean by that, Midababe? Bakubabe looks like he's ready to explode, and you're saying he's happy? Mina said, disbelief evident in her voice. Katsuki sighed. As expected, Deku was the only one who could see through his angry facade. He knew the emotions hiding beneath the tough exterior. Ashido-san, you should look closely. Even though Kaken always looks mad, it doesn't mean he is. Sometimes he's amazed, happy, or just indifferent. His expression doesn't change, no matter what he feels, because his angry face is his default, Izuku explained, leaving everyone dumbfounded. Default face? Is that even a thing? Midoriya is right. We don't know, but Bakugo really does have that face every day. Everyone's sweat dropped, surprised that Todoroki agreed with Izuku. Another thing that puzzled them was Katsuki's silence. His expression remained unchanged, but he wasn't shouting like usual. Could it be that Midoriya was actually right? Was he really happy? Baku babe, you look different today. Don't tell me you're in love. Mina teased, while Shiro silently prayed for her safety. Katsuki was caught off guard, his eyes widening momentarily before he composed himself, ensuring no one else noticed except Izuku. This made Izuku feel uneasy. Is Kaken really in love? With whom? Shut up, Pinky. Katsuki snapped. Oh, no need to get mad unless... What I'm saying is true, she said with a wink before running off. The class laughed at their antics, but Izuku was deep in thought. He couldn't shake the feeling that Kaken might be in love with someone else. What would that mean for him? The thought of Kaken liking someone else was unbearable. Would break his heart. The idea of the person he cared for having feelings for someone else felt like torture. Unbeknownst to everyone, Todoroki noticed. He saw Izuku's expression change the moment he heard about Bakugo's potential feelings. With a sigh, he realized that this slow burn was causing everyone distress, and he felt like his head might explode from witnessing how oblivious his friend could be. Both of them are hopelessly dense, he thought. I can't take this anymore. One of them needs to confess. It doesn't matter who, as long as someone does, so they can stop suffering and so can we. Determined, Todoroki decided he needed to talk to Midoriya. This situation wouldn't resolve itself if they just left things as they were. I'm going to talk to Midoriya later, he said quietly. After class, Todoroki quickly pulled Midoriya outside, leaving their classmates puzzled. Katsuki noticed this and felt confused as well. It wasn't typical for someone like Todoroki to drag someone away like that. Why is Todoroki in such a hurry? Mina asked. I think he said he would talk to Midoriya, Momo replied, having overheard Todoroki's quiet words. I guess later means now. But about what? Toru asked, curiosity piqued. Well, they are best friends. Maybe they have secrets we don't know about, Uraraka suggested, intrigued but also hoping Todoroki was just doing his part in the BKDK squad. Or maybe Todoroki is about to tell Midoriya who he likes, Shiro speculated, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. I doubt it. Maybe Midoriya promised to tell Todoroki who he likes. You know he obviously has a crush on someone, but I can't figure out who, Mina said, her radar picking up on something. Ah, she finally noticed. But she still doesn't know who. Is she also oblivious? The BKDK squad thought. Meanwhile, Katsuki was lost in his own thoughts. Deku likes someone? That idea made him uneasy. What would happen if Deku had feelings for someone else? He didn't like that thought at all. In Izuku's room, Todoroki sat on the floor while Izuku perched on the edge of his bed. Todoroki, do you need something? Izuku asked, confused by the sudden urgency. You like Bakugo, right? Todoroki asked, getting straight to the point. Izuku was taken aback. What a straightforward question, he thought. Yeah, why? He replied, curious about Todoroki's sudden inquiry. Are you really not going to confess? Todoroki pressed, his tone direct. I don't know, Izuku admitted. Are you just going to let this opportunity slip away? Todoroki challenged. I want to confess, but I'm not brave enough, Izuku said with a sad smile. You need to know the answer. You can't keep wondering if he likes you or someone else. You need clarity so you can move on if necessary, Todoroki advised. I'm saying this as your friend. I know how hard it is to think he might fall for someone else. Use this chance to confess. I want you to be happy. Trust me. Izuku looked at him, uncertainty in his eyes. You think it's a good idea? Yes, trust me. It will be worth it. At dinner, Izuku couldn't eat. He was too nervous. Today was the day he decided to confess to Kaken. No matter what happened, he wouldn't back down. He knocked on Kaken's door. The door opened to reveal a half-asleep Katsuki. "What do you want, nerd? Did you eat dinner already?" he asked, his voice a bit rough. Izuku's heart raced. Yes, and there's something I need to tell you." "You need to tell me something? Is it important?" Katsuki asked, curiosity piqued. What could Izuku possibly want to say? "Why, it is very important to me. I need to tell you this because I might not have the courage to do it in the future," Izuku replied, a mix of nervousness and determination in his voice. "Come in first, and let's talk about this important thing you want to say." Katsuki gently pulled him inside his room. He made Izuku sit on his bed while he took a seat on the floor. A minute of silence passed before Katsuki sighed, clearly still anxious despite having gathered the courage to come to his dorm. "What is it, nerd? Why are you so scared about it?" he asked. Izuku suddenly closed his eyes tightly and began to speak. "Because we've just gotten closer in the past few weeks, and telling you this might jeopardize what we have right now. I don't want that. Just listen to me first, Kaken. I didn't plan to say these words." He paused, trying to collect his thoughts. What does he mean by that? "Don't tell me," Katsuki's mind raced. "No, that's impossible. After everything I've done to him? It can't be. I know I'm not the best." "Who told you that?" Katsuki interrupted. Kaken, let me finish first," Izuku whined, prompting a chuckle from Katsuki. "Continue." Katsuki sighed, feeling his hopes rise. "As I was saying, I am not the best and I'm not good at this, but I realize I can't hide this forever, so I decided today is the right time." He paused again, his nerves making him feel faint. "Okay, you're pausing too much. Can you just get to the point?" Katsuki urged, earning a nod from Izuku. I just want to say that. Kaken, He hesitated once more. "Oh, come on, Dede. Just tell me already. Kaken, I like you." "Huh?" Katsuki thought, stunned. "You like me?" he asked, struggling to process what he had just heard. This was something he had hoped for but thought was impossible. Yet here it was, coming from Izuku. "Yeah. I like you in a romantic way," Izuku admitted, his gaze fixed on the floor. Hearing this, Katsuki couldn't help but smile, a soft laugh escaping him, which made Izuku look up. "So you finally lifted your head to look at me?" he teased. Izuku blushed, speechless. "Deku, you really beat me to it." "Huh?" Izuku was confused. Katsuki sighed, locking eyes with Izuku before continuing. "I was actually planning to confess tomorrow, which is why I decided to sleep early. And here you are, confessing to me." He chuckled again. "Wait, confess? You're going to confess to who?" Izuku asked, bewildered. "To you, of course. Deku, Izuku, I like you so much." Katsuki's words flowed smoothly, causing his heart to race. "Now, I won't let you beat me again. Deku, Izuku." "Why yes? Would you give me the chance to make you the happiest person this time? Would you like to go out with me as my boyfriend?" Katsuki's question made Izuku's heart flutter. "Of course. Why would I even say no to you?" Izuku replied, tears of joy welling in his eyes. "Oi, why the hell are you crying?" Katsuki asked, standing up and approaching Izuku, gently cupping his cheeks. "Because Kaken is my boyfriend now, and I am so happy," Izuku said, tears streaming down his face. "DMN nerd," Katsuki said affectionately, lifting Izuku into a tight embrace. "I am happy too." The next morning, Izuku woke up beside Katsuki, wrapped in each other's arms. He felt flustered as memories of the previous night flooded back. Finally, Kaken was his boyfriend now, and he couldn't be happier. "You're awake already?" Katsuki asked, eyes still closed. "Yes. We have classes today, and I am so happy, so I woke up early," Izuku answered. "You were so happy that I'm your boyfriend now that you're in a good mood?" Katsuki said, opening his eyes and finding Izuku lying in his arms. The sunlight streaming through the window illuminated Izuku's hair, making him look almost ethereal, and Katsuki found himself momentarily entranced. "DMN. I am so in love with him now," he thought. Of course I am happy. Kaken is the best. Izuku said, giggling. Katsuki couldn't help himself and suddenly pinched Izuku's freckled cheeks. What if I am not the best? He teased. Even if Kaken isn't the best to others, you'll always be the best in my eyes, Izuku replied, looking at him lovingly with a bright smile that made Katsuki's heart flutter. What are you doing to me, Deku? You're making my heart race, he said, causing Izuku to blush. Deku, do you know how beautiful you are right now? Katsuki said again. Kaken, why you are being so direct? My heart can't take it, Izuku stammered, burying his face in Katsuki's chest, which made Katsuki laugh. You are so cute. What do you want for breakfast? Katsuki asked, gently caressing Izuku's hair. Toast. Izuku replied, looking up at Katsuki. Ah, Kaken looks so handsome. My heart flutters every time I look at him. Could he possibly hear my heart beating so fast? Let's go, Katsuki said, slowly getting up. Ah, Kaken. Wait. Izuku called out, remembering something. What is it? Should we tell the others about us? He asked Katsuki. Well, you can tell your friends. I'm actually planning on telling Dunce Face and Shitty Hair, he said with a smile. So Kaminari and Kirishima-kun know your feelings for me? They actually know how I feel about you. What? Those idiots know that you like me? Katsuki asked, surprised. Is that why they want me to confess? Because they're sure I won't be rejected. Yes. They said I was obvious. Izuku pouted. They decided to tell their friends, specifically Uraraka, Todoroki, Kaminari, and Kirishima. As for the others? Well, that was for them to discover. Minutes later, the couple was in the kitchen, enjoying breakfast prepared by Katsuki. Thank you for the breakfast, Kaken, Izuku said with a smile. Anything for you, babe, Katsuki replied, grinning. Izuku felt his cheeks heat up again. I don't think I will ever get used to this, Izuku commented. Well, get used to it, baby, Katsuki said with a teasing smile. Izuku's flustered expression was just too adorable. Babe, you look cuter when you're blushing, Katsuki teased until they finished breakfast and decided to head to school. Fortunately, no one was around to witness Katsuki's sweet side, another missed opportunity for them. It's been 2 weeks since the confession, and so far, no one knew. Their plan to tell their friends kept getting delayed due to various circumstances. Now, the BKDK squad was having a meeting in Todoroki's room. Jiro, have you noticed anything different about Deku-kun and Bakugo-kun? Uraraka asked. She sensed that the two were closer than before but couldn't pinpoint what had changed. Well, I haven't heard anything, Jiro admitted. The truth was, on the night of the confession, she had been with Momo in the kitchen and was unaware of her surroundings. 2 weeks ago, when you saw me drag Midoriya out of the classroom, I actually talked to him and convinced him to confess to Bakugo. I don't know if he did or if he got scared and didn't go through with it. I haven't heard anything from him, Todoroki said. So maybe they are dating now or just got closer, Tokoyami suggested, which made the others nod in agreement. He had a point, they might be dating or not. Kaminari sighed. I hope they are dating already. Yeah, I hope so. I can't take this anymore. I want to tell Midobro about Bakubro's feelings for him, but I'm kind of scared of Bakugo, Kirishima said, laughing awkwardly. As for me, I don't want to pressure Bakugo or Midoriya into anything. I want them to have their moment, Tokoyami added. They were still discussing when they received a message from Ida, saying they were all needed in the common room. Upon arriving, the squad noticed that Bakugo and Midoriya were seated beside each other, which wasn't unusual for them. However, for their other classmates, it was a rare sight, perhaps the first time they weren't arguing while being so close to each other. Are Midoriya and Bakugo really sitting on a love seat without fighting each other? Or am I just hallucinating? Sato whispered to Koda. You are not imagining things. I can see it too, Koda replied. Shoji overheard them and nodded in agreement, as did Ojiro, who looked equally stunned. Okay, everyone. Now that we're all here, I have an announcement to make, Ida said, gaining everyone's attention. Next week, we are having a fun day here at school to celebrate Valentine's Day. He waved his arms enthusiastically. Wow. Really? Mina exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. The others shared her enthusiasm. Yes, it's a 2-day celebration. It's a chance for us to have some fun. On the second day, we will have a party in the gymnasium, and all students are required to attend. I hope everyone will join in. This is your chance to ask someone special for a dance, Ida added, making everyone even more excited. After the meeting, Ida advised everyone to return to their rooms, and everyone complied except for Izuku, who found himself in Katsuki's room. Do you have any plans for Valentine's Day, Kaken? Izuku asked as they lay on Katsuki's bed, comfortably close. I was planning to take you on a date, but now we have this fun day, Katsuki sighed, feeling a bit disappointed. We can still have a date on fun day, Izuku suggested with a smile. Yeah, we can. But there will be a lot of distractions, Katsuki replied, slightly annoyed. That's okay. We can have our date afterward, Izuku assured him, snuggling closer. Minutes later, both of them drifted off to sleep. Days passed and now it was the second day of Fun Day. Everyone was buzzing with excitement for the party in the gymnasium, eager to ask their crushes for a dance. Hello. Good evening. The party is about to start. So ask the person you like to be your partner now. We're counting down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Present Mick's voice boomed throughout the gymnasium, followed by a romantic song playing in the background. The music filled the gymnasium, and everyone was enjoying themselves. 5 songs had passed, but Izuku and Katsuki remained outside, sitting on the grass and gazing at the moon and stars. Kaken, I am so happy, Izuku said after a long silence. You're happy about what? Katsuki asked, gently running his fingers through Izuku's hair. I'm happy that I'm here with you, Izuku replied with a warm smile. Really? I'm just as happy, Katsuki said, suddenly standing up and extending his hand to Izuku. Hey, babe, may I have this dance? He asked, causing Izuku to blush as he took Katsuki's hand. They held each other while dancing to the romantic music playing inside the gymnasium. While the others celebrated inside, the couple shared a moment under the moonlight, expressing their affection for one another. 1 month had passed, and the couple was now celebrating their first month together. 2 weeks ago, they decided it was the right time to tell their friends about their relationship. When Uraraka found out, she excitedly dragged Izuku and Todoroki into her room, bombarding Izuku with questions about the details of his confession. Tsu joined them, trying to calm Uraraka, who was practically floating with excitement. Meanwhile, the other students in class seemed oblivious to any changes in the couple's behavior. Here's a flashback to the moment Izuku told Uraraka and Todoroki. As class ended, Izuku asked Uraraka and Todoroki to walk with him because he needed to share something important. Katsuki was walking with Kaminari and Kirishima, having already discussed this with Izuku. Noticing they were alone in the hallway, Izuku decided to tell them right away. Guys, the thing I need to tell you is about me and Kaken, he started. Bakugo? What about it? Todoroki asked, already suspecting it might be about the confession, while Uraraka listened eagerly. Actually, after you advised me to confess, I did confess to Kaken that night. And now we're dating, he said, fidgeting nervously. Todoroki let out a sigh of relief, clearly happy, while Uraraka squealed and dragged both boys into the dorms and into her room, showering Izuku with questions that nearly overwhelmed him. Todoroki tried to help but was also curious, so he let Uraraka continue her enthusiastic interrogation. Fortunately, Tsu saw them and decided to join the conversation, gently reminding Uraraka to give Izuku some space. An hour later, Izuku managed to escape Uraraka's questions with the help of Tsu and Todoroki. He was on his way to his room when he spotted Katsuki attempting to unleash his explosive temper on Denki, while Kirishima tried to shield Denki from Katsuki's wrath. The scene was pure chaos. They only paused their antics when they heard someone giggling and turned to see it was Izuku. What are you laughing at? Do you? Katsuki shouted, chasing after Izuku, who dashed toward his dorm room and let Katsuki in. The duo sighed in relief now that Bakugo was distracted. Kirishima scolded Denki for asking too many questions, which only fueled Bakugo's anger. Meanwhile, Izuku kept pressing Katsuki about what had happened. Katsuki simply replied, "The idiots have too many questions, and I don't want to answer them all." Izuku chuckled awkwardly at his boyfriend's response. Despite the earlier chaos, the BKDK squad was now genuinely happy. Their goal had been achieved, it was no longer painful to watch them, and they were no longer oblivious to each other's feelings. Now back to the present, Izuku and Katsuki were on their way to the Midoriya household. The couple decided to announce their relationship to their parents during a dinner at Izuku's house, which both of their mothers had planned. Izuku felt a wave of anxiety wash over him. He knew his mom was aware of his deep feelings for Katsuki, but they had never discussed it openly. She just seemed to know. His nerves were so intense that he barely heard what Katsuki was saying. Minutes later, Katsuki noticed Izuku's silence and turned to him, realizing he was lost in thought. "Deku!" Izuku snapped out of his reverie, finally acknowledging Katsuki's presence. "Kaken," he blurted out. "Finally! You're looking at me. What's wrong, babe? Are you worried about something?" Katsuki asked, concern evident in his voice. "I'm sorry for making you worry, Kaken. I'm just nervous about telling our parents about our relationship," Izuku admitted, fidgeting. Katsuki sighed, having expected this reaction. Deku always worried about everything, despite his reassurances before they left. "Deku, how many times do I have to tell you that everything is going to be fine? My mom knows about my feelings for you because I talked to her, and she's happy about it. She's looking forward to the day I make you mine. As for my dad, he knows me well. He may not be as expressive as my mom, but he understands me just as much. And your mom loves you too much. She will definitely understand," he said, offering Izuku a comforting smile. Izuku calmed down a bit, at least until they reached the front door of his house. He felt like he might be sick. If Katsuki hadn't pulled him inside, he might have been overwhelmed. After warm greetings, they sat down for dinner and chatted about various topics. The couple kept searching for the right moment to bring up their relationship, and that moment finally arrived. "Izuku? You look a bit pale. Are you okay?" Inko asked her son. Startled, Izuku replied, "Yes, Mom. Actually, there's something we need to tell you." "Oh, what is it?" Mitsuki asked, intrigued. "This hag, old man, auntie. The thing is, Deku and I are both gay and we're dating," Katsuki announced, causing a stunned silence that lasted nearly 2 minutes. "Who confessed first?" Mitsuki finally broke the silence. "Huh." Izuku was taken aback by their reaction. "Yeah, who confessed first?" Inko asked, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. It's me," Izuku answered shyly. "What?" Mitsuki exclaimed. "Han, calm down," Inko said, trying to soothe her friend. "But, Mitsuki, you owe me," Inko added happily. "You brat. You let Izuku confess first when I told you to do it right away? You're my son, but you're kinda slow. I hope he's not the one who asked you out," Mitsuki said, feeling exasperated. "Shut up, I was planning to confess in the morning, but that night, Deku suddenly decided to confess. And I'm the one who asked him out," Katsuki retorted, and they began to bicker. Amidst the chaos, Izuku was talking to Masaru. "Izuku, congratulations on your relationship with Katsuki. Please take care of him. I didn't expect you two to get together. To be honest, I was close to giving up," he said, shaking his head. Izuku smiled and thanked him for accepting them. Minutes later, both mothers accepted their relationship and offered a lot of advice, which Masaru had to intervene to stop. "Come to think of it, I am confident that Izuku will confess, but I expect someone might have given you a little push?" Inko said, turning her head to Izuku. Well, Kaken, remember when Todoroki dragged me out of the classroom? He actually advised me to confess. A lot of them tried to help, even Uraraka. She kept pushing me to just confess and even tried to make Kaken jealous," Izuku said, laughing nervously as he realized he had revealed his friend's efforts. That half and round face," Katsuki exclaimed, though he wasn't really mad. Izuku laughed while Mitsuki reprimanded Katsuki for calling his classmates names, and they started arguing once again. After that talk, they decided to stay for the night since it was already late when they finished. Nevertheless, Izuku and Katsuki were both happy about what had happened. They felt accepted and everything was well. What? Bakugo and Midoriya are dating? Mina shouted at the top of her lungs. It was Saturday, and they had decided to play a game called Truth or Dare. Izuku had picked Truth, and he had no choice but to tell them about his relationship with Katsuki. Yeah, Kaken and I have been dating for 3 months now, Izuku said, smiling happily. They had planned to tell the rest of the class, but this revelation saved them time and effort. My ship. It is sailing. Momo exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. She was practically vibrating beside Jiro, who was just shaking her head. Once Izuku and Katsuki shared their news, the rest of the BKDK squad was quick to celebrate. How did we not notice it? Siro asked, bewildered. I actually knew, Shoji said, having seen the couple together often enough to sense something was going on. Me too, Koda said shyly. The three of us saw Bakugo and Midoriya having a sweet moment on the rooftop. We couldn't believe it at first, but after seeing it multiple times, we accepted it, Ojiro explained. How did I not notice? Mina said, clutching her clothes near her chest. They're not exactly discreet, you know. I even noticed it, Todoroki remarked. I figured it out too. You all don't know the feeling of a slow burn, Jiro said with a sigh. We thought they were just oblivious to each other's feelings, Tokoyami added, and the BKDK squad revealed their plan to get Katsuki and Izuku together. How could you make a squad and not inform me? Mina said, her eyes welling up. She felt betrayed for not noticing the changes sooner. Yeah. We want to support Bakugo and Midoriya too, the others chimed in, rooting for the two rivals, knowing there was something special between them. We're also wondering why you guys didn't notice when they didn't even try to hide it, Todoroki said. Yeah, we noticed their closeness was different after they made up. Oh right, you didn't know they made up, Tokoyami said, and Dark Shadow nodded. They made up? Siro asked, surprised. It means they started mending their relationship and became closer, eventually turning from friends to something more, Koda explained, shocking everyone with his clarity. What? I just missed such rare happenings, Mina said, still sulking. It's fine, Mina. We didn't see it either, even though we've been observing them for months, Kirishima said, trying to comfort her, but Mina remained upset. Let's not fight about this anymore. Let's just be happy that Bakugo has finally been honest about his feelings for Midoriya. We should congratulate them and respect their privacy. If there are things they don't want to share, let's not hold it against them. After all, we all want our privacy respected. So, congrats, Midoriya and Bakugo. I hope you become a strong and happy couple for a lifetime, Ida said, adjusting his glasses. Izuku smiled brightly, feeling grateful for Ida's consideration. You're so thoughtful, Ida-kun, Momo said, and everyone started teasing Ida until chaos erupted once again, prompting him to reprimand them. In the end, everyone was ordered to return to their own rooms, except for Izuku, who made his way to Katsuki's room. What are you doing here, nerd? Katsuki asked his boyfriend, though he allowed him to sit on his lap and began to caress his cheeks. Just want to be with you, Izuku said, pouting. Katsuki then showered him with gentle kisses on his face, avoiding his lips. The couple, now 3 months into their relationship, had yet to share a kiss on the lips, either because they hadn't thought about it or were too shy to ask each other. We've been together all day, he said, planting gentle kisses on Izuku's cheeks. He truly adored Izuku's freckles and felt deeply in love with him. Still, Izuku replied, suddenly looking Katsuki in the eyes. Kaken, is it too early to say I love you? Katsuki was taken aback, momentarily speechless before a smile broke across his face. He chuckled softly, then smiled again. Kaken, you're so mean. How could you laugh at me? Izuku pouted, feeling a mix of embarrassment and affection. Izuku, I love you so much, Katsuki said with utmost sincerity, causing Izuku's heart to swell and his eyes to glisten with unshed tears. I love you too, Kaken. I love you so much it hurts. I really love you deeply, he said, struggling to hold back the emotions that threatened to spill over. Well, me too. I sincerely love you. I've never loved anyone this way, only you. So please, stay with me and love me forever, Katsuki said, cupping Izuku's cheeks tenderly. I will always love you. I will choose to love you every day, Izuku replied with a smile. In that moment, nothing else mattered to them but each other. Their eyes met, and all they could see was love reflected back. Moments later, Katsuki pulled Izuku into a slow, sweet kiss, a moment they would surely cherish for a lifetime.